Network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Hello, good morning, hope you're well. Live from Washington DC, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
That's one thing that's a little different than other than we can bomb the hell out of them, we can knock them out for a loop.
A big update on the war with Iran from President Trump. He issued that threat whilst also blasting NATO, calling it a paper tiger, and gave an extension to his deadline for Iran to make a deal, warning the entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow.
Have you spoken to Keir Starmer, and also, do you believe that UK could resurrect like Jesus this Easter weekend?
That's what they need.
Have you spoken to the Prime Minister?
The UK has a long way to go.
Mr. President.
We don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Do we agree?
Have you spoken?
We don't want Neville Chamberlain.
Yes, earlier today I got a brief moment with the President. He took another shot at our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, saying we don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Oof. Also tonight.
Yeah, from the cabin of integrity here as we surpass the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth.
Yes, I love this. That was the record-breaking moment from the Artemis 2 spaceship when crew bettered Apollo 13's effort to become the furthest humans from Earth in spaceflight. Well done to them. I'm Ben Leo and this is The Late Show Live. Good morning to you. Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me in Washington this evening is my panel, the Republican strategist Colin Reid and the former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins. And I'm delighted to say, back in London, businessman and activist Adam Brooks. Hello, Adam. Thank you for joining us. I think it's your first time with me, so I'm delighted you're with us. Welcome along. Right, let's move on to today's main story, shall we? My day started with this interaction with the President of the United States.
Have you spoken to Keir Starmer, sir? And also, do you believe that UK could resurrect like Jesus this Easter weekend?
Well, that's what they need.
Have you spoken to the Prime Minister?
The UK has a long way to go.
Mr. President.
We don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Do we agree?
Have you spoken?
We don't want Neville Chamberlain.
President Trump there speaking to me on the South Lawn of the White House, saying of Sir Keir Starmer that we, quote, don't want another Neville Chamberlain. A reference to the former Prime Minister famously appeasing Adolf Hitler, of course. But the President then held a monumental press conference just a few hours later, giving an update on the war in Iran.
Over the past 37 days, America's armed forces have carried out more than 10,000 combat flights over Iran, unheard of, striking more than 13,000 targets. The F-15 we lost last week was the first manned aircraft downed by the enemy in this entire operation, with thousands and thousands of flights. They got lucky. It was a lucky hit.
So it was a very busy day at the White House. President Trump went on during that conference and he issued this threat.
The entire country could be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
He was also, interestingly, asked by a reporter whether he knew he was breaking the Geneva Convention and committing war crimes by threatening to bomb civilian infrastructure. He said he had the backing of the Iranian people.
They would be willing to, and it's suffering, they would be willing to suffer that in order to have freedom. The Iranians have, and we've had numerous intercepts. Please keep bombing. Bombs that are dropping near their homes. Please keep bombing. Do it. And these are people that are living where the bombs are exploding. And when we leave and we're not hitting those areas, they're saying, please come back, come back, come back.
Well, it wasn't just Britain and Keir Starmer who he slammed. He also had a pop at Australia, Japan, South Korea, and, of course, NATO.
And I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed in NATO. Very. I think that NATO, I think it's a mark on NATO that will never disappear. Never disappear in my mind. You know, they're coming to see me on Wednesday. They're going to say, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they all of a sudden want to send things, you know. But they said it loud and clear at the beginning. When I spoke to UK of all, I would have said they would have been the first because they're the oldest. And I say, yeah, I'd love to have a little help. He said, no, sir, we'd rather wait till you win. I said, I don't need help after we win. They have two old broken aircraft carriers, barely work. I said, I guess we can use them. Who the hell knows? I called the general. He didn't even want them. He said, we don't really need them. We got the SS Abraham Lincoln, sir. We don't need them.
And there was also a story of heroism. I mean, this is going to be made into a movie, no doubt, or some sort of Netflix film, on the rescued airmen. So 2 airmen, of course, were rescued from the downed F-15. This was Secretary of War Pete Hegseth describing that rescue.
In that moment of isolation and danger, his faith and fighting spirit shone through. You see, shot down on a Friday, Good Friday, hidden in a cave, a crevice, all of Saturday, and rescued on Sunday. Flown out of Iran as the sun was rising on Easter Sunday. A pilot reborn, all home and accounted for, a nation rejoicing. God is good.
Let me know your thoughts on that. GBNews.com/your say. So much to unpick. It was a litany of news all across the day. With me now is the host of Bianca Across the Nation on Newsmax here in America, Bianca De La Garza. Bianca, great to see you. Thank you for joining the Late Show Live again. I'm going to put the cards for you, Bianca. Yeah, it's been a good day. What do you want to talk about? There was so much to go at. I mean, attacks on NATO, Keir Starmer, the deadline as well. I thought Pete Hegseth was great. I'll leave it to you, Bianca.
Okay, so let me pick up on that Pete Hegseth comment, because he did sort of draw this line. We just came off Easter weekend, the miracle of the rescue, as you said, a movie. I think that there is sort of this outrage manufactured, pearl clutching about President Trump and his comments over the weekend. But I just want to share that right now on Iranian state television, they are asking young children to form a human chain around power plants because they know that there is a deadline approaching. There cannot be two contexts is farther apart when you have fatwas and you have the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which obviously that was Good Friday when that moment in the plane went down. I think that there is this good versus evil, and it's okay to say that aloud. And we're looking at people in Iran, the blackouts there. And Ben, it's the longest one since the Arab Spring. So 38 days right now, they're in a blackout. It is about freeing them. It is about peace in the Middle East. And it is about getting the job done. And President Trump is taking them on, and no other president dared to do just that. I think that there is something pretty profound about that as we enter this 24-hour period right now.
Yeah, look, I know war is grisly, war isn't good, it's the worst of humanity, but there was something quite poetic about what Hegseth, or how Hegseth described the rescue today. And talking about Iran, President Trump got up at the press briefing room and he said the Iranians have been BSing America for 47 years. He said they've BS'd the country, they've BS'd previous presidents, but they're not going to string me along. And he's now given them, well, until tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern time, Bianca. Do you think they're going to come to a deal, or is, as President Trump said, all hell going to rain down on Iran?
You know, that's a great question. I don't have that crystal ball. I mean, part of me thinks as we're sitting here tonight, Ben, there's a very good chance that Iran as a country could be demolished. Does it exist in the way, shape, or form if they don't come to a table? And they have to be thinking, whomever they are now still negotiating with, do we feel lucky? Because as President Trump said today, look at Soleimani, look at Maduro, look at Khamenei most recently. You have to wonder what's going through their mind. I do think there'll be this last minute rush to kind of come to the table. I'm hoping, I'm praying for diplomacy to reign in this. Obviously, it is that is the off-ramp I think we all want to see. And right now, I do have to say the only leverage is the Strait of Hormuz. And they know that, and they've been playing the long game here, Iran, and that is why they are even more formidable than they had been before. President Trump knows that because no one else, they just sent them pallets of money, billions of dollars. Obama appeased them, and now we are in a position where it is at a pressure point for them. I'm praying that there is diplomacy. Let's hold out hope, Ben.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And also, great point you made about that breaking news from Iran over the past hour or so to do with the regime basically is saying they're going to be surrounding their power plants, their key infrastructure with civilians, pretty much, the kind of thing Hamas does in Gaza with their hospitals. And I know President Trump's comments on Truth Social over the weekend where he said, open the effing Strait of Hormuz, you crazy B words. I mean, they are crazy B words if they're considering doing that, surrounding infrastructure with civilians. It just goes to prove his point. And Bianca, before I let you go, President Trump was saying, he was asked actually about the fact that if he did bomb infrastructure, the key civilian infrastructure, it would potentially break the Geneva Convention and he'd be committing war crimes. And he said in his response, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, this is what the Iranian people wanted. They came onto the streets en masse in February, in January. They literally put their lives on the line, tens of thousands slaughtered to protest. And he was saying this is what they want. When we leave an area and we stop bombing in Iran, they are begging me, Mr. President, please come back and continue the fight.
Yeah, I heard that too, as well as President Trump said that from the briefing, which, by the way, you're showing some of the video. I mean, he is just in such control and command of every reporter. The talk about the 25th Amendment, that he's deteriorating from the left's pundits, that's just absolute rubbish since we saw Joe Biden, who could barely utter a sentence at the end of his term here. Okay, so about the war crimes, he did address it. I would propose this as a very smart expert on my show program today, Ben said, if these are run by the IRGC and these are plants that aren't the people's plants, but what they're doing is funding war, then they're legitimate targets. And that's why the attack on South Pars again by Israel is going after the way they are funding the money. So there's sanctions, there's this. So I think that's an interesting angle that perhaps we need to explore a little bit more. So how much are these actually targets if President Trump also followed up, as you heard him say, we'll go in, we will rebuild these. I mean, there's nothing he wants to do than to free the civilian people and the innocent lives in Iran. He's not trying to hurt them by doing this, but ultimately their destruction and their demise is in the hands of the radical mullahs who are still in control.
Yeah, well said. And I've heard whispers as well that the administration, of course, has briefed their legal teams, the lawyers and so on, about the legalities of doing what he's threatened to do. And I think they're confident they can do it and stay within the confines of the law. Bianca, thank you so much for being with us. Viewers love you, and I can't wait to see you again soon. Bianca De La Garza from Newsmax, host of Bianca Across the Nation. Thank you so much. Right, gbnews.com/your say. Let me know your thoughts on that. Let's get the thoughts now of my panel here in Washington. Republican strategist Colin Reed and the former Obama policy advisor Laurie Watkins. Good evening. Nice to see you. Happy Easter. Laurie, we'll start with you. Former Obama policy advisor. Bianca there was talking about the sort of plane loads of cash that we sent Iran under Obama. And President Trump today said the Iranians have been BSing this administration for 47 years, sorry, the country for 47 years, including previous presidents. Do you agree now Trump's the one who's not being BS'd along and he's getting the job done, a job that maybe your old boss Obama couldn't do?
No, that's not how I feel, that President Obama or any other president wasn't willing to. There was a reason why president after president didn't go forward and do what he did, is because this is a very complex issue, as President Trump is finding out. This isn't just go in, bomb some shit, and then, you know, then you have 2 to 3 weeks and then this is over. That's not what's happening here. Not at all.
Colin?
Okay, so for 47 years, presidents of both parties either didn't do anything or made the situation worse in some situations. Now President Trump has come along and has actually tried to rid the world of this evil regime that has been exporting terrorism in the region into America, into Europe for 47 years. And there's almost this rush to hope he fails because they don't like President Trump. And that's really sad, because this world is indisputably going to be a better, safer place for the Iranians, for Europe, for the United States, with this regime wiped off the face of the map.
Do you include Laurie in that? Do you want Trump to fail, Laurie?
No, you always put words in my mouth, Ben.
No, I'm asking you a question.
No.
I'm not saying you do. I'm asking whether Colin just said it.
I don't want our military to fail, and I don't want us to continue to be in economic peril like we are right now. And the Middle East is literally on fire right now. No, I did not wish or desire for any of this to happen. And I think it is looking towards it's going to be a failure, because it's not the agenda or the initial strategy that he wanted. And he's finding out that he was naive, that, and he'll never say that, of course, that this is a very complex issue. You cannot just go in and target military sites or military, or what he believed was where they were enriching uranium, and then blow it up. And then furthermore, we all know and see now that this wasn't true, that there was complete destruction of these nuclear sites last June. That just did not happen.
So we are where we are now, of course. We can't go back.
Right.
Your country is engaged in the war. You're in the conflict. You're in it. There's no turning back. So what would a win look like from here for you?
A win would be that he stops this very aggressive talk that he's, especially on Easter yesterday. As a Christian, I'm sure, I really hope that you had a problem with that, Ben. It was abhorrent, to say the least. But your other guest, anyone that's on the conservative side that agrees with this unhinged president today, that said the Iranian people want that they want to be bombed, is literally out of their mind, because that is not true. The Iranian people do not want to have their civilian sites, their infrastructure completely blown to pieces. How is that freedom for the Iranian people?
Well, I don't think they really enjoy
Absolutely
being hung
not.
in the streets either for expressing the wrong point of view that disagrees with a murderous, brutal regime. And first of all, the idea that Iran could not have a nuclear weapon didn't used to be a Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative point of view. It used to be one that there actually used to be a lot of agreement on. So now we're disagreeing about whether or not we should do that. It's complicated. It's complex. I agree with you on that point, Laura. This isn't the easiest thing in the world. But I guess the question is, should there be nothing done or should there be something done? And now we're debating about the tactics to go forward.
OK, let's take a quick look at... let's go to Adam Brooks in a second. Let's play this clip first of all. This is what President Trump said about Iran not should not ever be able to have a nuclear weapon, of course. And he was talking about the Obama agreement. Let's take a quick look.
The war is about one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Had we not broken the Barack Hussein Obama agreement, you know what I'm talking about, the Iran nuclear deal. This is years ago, my first term. You would have had a total, Israel would have been gone, extinguished. Israel would have been wiped off the face of the earth, and the entire Middle East would have been, at a minimum, in big trouble.
All right, let's get the thoughts now of businessman and activist Adam Brooks. Hello, Adam. Good morning. What's your take on what we've seen today and heard?
Look, I think people need to realise that if Trump succeeds, the whole world is a lot safer. There is no doubt that Iran would have got a nuclear weapon, whether it was in a year or within 5 years. Now, we have possibly put them back, well, Donald Trump has put that back a decade. That's the worst case scenario here. We've got to remember that a win here is a democratic Iran. These people do not want to live under this suppression and this extremist regime. And they've had 30, 40, 50,000 of them slaughtered on their own streets. These are madmen that kill their own people. Of course, something had to be done. I'm embarrassed as a Brit that we didn't get involved and we didn't help stop that as well. But look, I am a believer that Trump has got something up his sleeve. I believe that they are talking to Iran through back channels. But my only worry here, Ben, is that we're dealing with people that are not afraid to die. You know, you and I and everyone else is afraid to die. These people are not afraid to die. How many of them are so radical in higher positions that they just don't care? That's my worry. And I think Trump knows that. If you're dealing with people that are not scared to die, then it's a big problem.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, as you said, I mean, it's martyrdom for them. So, yeah, they are prepared to die, of course, and I think we value life a lot more than they do. Let's take a quick look at another clip. This is President Trump talking about Iran and the unprecedented situation they had on their hands over the weekend.
Over the past 37 days, America's armed forces have carried out more than 10,000 combat flights over Iran, unheard of, striking more than 13,000 targets. The F-15 we lost last week was the first manned aircraft downed by the enemy in this entire operation, with thousands and thousands of flights. They got lucky. It was a lucky hit.
So, Colin, the press conference began with a really amazing story of the rescue of that downed airman. Well, it was the pilot and the weapons officer, but the big one, of course, was the weapons officer. What was your take on what we heard today? It was scores, maybe 150 aircraft were involved. They were doing decoys, searches, so they'd put 6 or 7 aircraft in one area 30 miles away to try and convince the Iranians that that was the crash site and that's where the pilot was. And they went into great detail about how the airman escaped, climbing 7,000 feet up a mountain, hiding for 48 hours, and then finally they were rescued. What's your take on what we heard?
It's miraculous, and the fact that it happened on Easter weekend, on Good Friday and Easter Sunday, it's one for the ages. It speaks to the might of the United States military and the intelligence agencies, and the fact that it happened. And it's just something that'll be talked about for a long time to come. I can't wait to read the book and see the movie. But it's an incredible moment and an incredible series of events.
Yeah, and Laurie, it doesn't actually show that the first pilot who was rescued, the United States had 7 hours of daylight. It was a daylight operation with hardly any resistance from Iran. And it just goes to show, I think, maybe tell me what you think, that really, as President Trump said, they have little to no air force, little to no navy. They pretty much are obliterators.
I'm very pleased. I've been praying all weekend for these airmen to be rescued, and finally they were. And the fact that he climbed 7,000 feet, I don't know if you know that or not, up into a top of a mountain and hid behind a crevice until he was able to make connection with U.S. service members, SEAL Team 6, to extract him out of there is nothing short of a miracle, miraculous. These Herculean efforts that our military has. One of the most coveted and important jobs I've ever had in my life was working at the Pentagon as a civilian with our military to see exactly what they can do. Every single day they put their lives on the line, and unfortunately we have lost 13 U.S. service members through this war already.
Yeah, indeed you have, and yeah, thoughts and prayers with those. One more very quick clip. This is President Trump on finding, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this, Laurie, having worked in the Pentagon. This is Trump on saying that they will find the leaker who leaked the details of the mission in the first place, the fact that they were searching for that second airman, and threatened to throw them in jail unless the network, I think I know who the network is, I won't name them, unless the network provided their sources. Let's take a look at that.
As you probably know, we didn't talk about the first one for an hour, and then somebody leaked something, which we'll hopefully find that leaker. We're looking very hard to find that leaker. Well, they didn't know there was somebody missing until this leaker gave the information. So whoever it was, we think we'll be able to find it out, because we're going to go to the media company that released it, and we're going to say, national security, give it up or go to jail.
Right, we'll discuss that after the break, but let me know your thoughts on that. Should journalists have free rein to give away stories and publish stories which, I mean, Trump argues it breaches national security, but the journalists would say, well, it's a free press. Anyway, we'll discuss that after the break. Still ahead, though, on The Late Show Live tonight.
Because I've always said NATO's a paper tiger. See, NATO's a paper tiger. Putin's not afraid of NATO. Putin's afraid of us, very afraid of us.
Yeah, he uses that phrase a lot, paper tiger, with regards to NATO. So the president again laying into NATO, but what does it mean for the organisation's future? Well, it's certainly under threat, we know that. I'll talk to President Trump's former National Security Council Chief of Staff next for the inside detail. Don't go anywhere on The Late Show Live.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there.
With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some breaking news in the past couple of moments. We understand Artemis 2, the capsule Orion, where the 4 brave astronauts are flying around the dark side of the moon, has just regained signal, we understand. This is mission control. There we go. This is a live picture of, I'm assuming it's from the capsule. Is that the moon? Looks like the moon. Laurie, your thoughts on this mission? I was lucky enough to be at the launch. It was great, and it seems to be going well.
I'm glad you got to go, Ben. We talked about that before. Yes, I think this is incredible. I'm so pleased that every day there seems to be, inching along, completing the mission as planned, which is always what you want when you are looking at this kind of miraculous feat here. But something that Victor Glover, one of the astronauts, said yesterday on Easter, it's going viral. It really stuck with me, along with many people around the world, is he said, while looking back at Earth, he said, we are the same thing. We're all one people, and we've got to get through this together. And I think that that's just beautifully timed here on Earth of what we're all going through, whether it's happy times for people, difficult times for people, despair, whatever, that we're all in this together. I take that as we should treat each other with kindness and respect.
Absolutely, and that's why, Colin, I got so emotional watching the launch. However, that said, sorry to be a party pooper, how do you convince Islamist despots of that, who wake up every morning and say, death to Israel, death to America, death to Great Britain?
For 47 years I've been saying that. But look, I think this is incredible that the United States intends to lead again in space exploration going forward. It was an incredible time in our nation's history before. It's nice to see it again.
Yeah, and actually it's been confirmed as well this evening that they have officially now been travelled, they are the furthest humans to travel.
Yes.
So the humans to travel furthest into space than ever before, so it's a great feat. Beating Apollo 13. So good news.
Accomplishments for the United States.
Yeah, we'll get the updates on Artemis as the show goes on. But let's turn our eyes back to Iran now. With me is President Trump's former National Security Council Chief of Staff, Fred Fleets. Fred, good evening, good morning, thank you for joining us. Just your take on today, really. First of all, he was talking, well, let's talk about the deadline, shall we? It's 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. We understand a deal has been on the desk of the Iranians and the Americans today. Steve Witkoff has been, believe it or not, texting his counterpart in the Iranian government, the foreign minister. Are we going to get a deal, or is Iran going back to the Stone Age, Fred?
I understand Witkoff has been involved. I believe the deal was drawn up by Pakistan. I hope both sides agree to it. President Trump is a tough negotiator. He's really made it clear he's not going to be intimidated by the Iranians. This is a nation that's been intimidating the world for 47 years with threats, manipulating peace talks and nuclear talks, and engaging in acts of terror. So, when people complain this is a violation of international law, that the fact that the president may up the ante against Iran for its violations of international law, for all the terrorism it's been engaged in, assassination squads in Europe and in the UK. So I think the president's very serious, but I think in the end he's moving towards de-escalating and ending this war in 2 to 3 weeks. That's what he promised in his speech at the White House last week. I think before he does that, he's going to try to get control of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, indeed. I think actually he'll try and solve or crack or finish the war before King Charles makes his visit on April the 28th, because I think it would be a massive favour to King Charles. I don't think he really wants to visit America whilst this is going on. Can I ask you, please, about a question which is still ringing around my mind? It's from a reporter in the press briefing today with Trump, who said, are you not worried about breaking the Geneva Convention and committing war crimes by bombing civilian infrastructure? Do you think the administration would be able to get away with that legally if that's what they chose to do?
Well, we were hearing a few weeks ago that the whole war was a violation of international law because it wasn't blessed by the UN Security Council. So this conveniently comes in when Trump is picking out certain targets. But I got to tell you, I don't favor attacking these power facilities, because I think that will hurt the Iranian people. It will hurt the ability of a new Iranian government to run the country. I think we should concentrate on helping the Iranian people throw out this viciously evil radical Islamist regime, and I hope that's where President Trump is going.
Yeah, Pete Hegseth was there today, the Secretary of War. He had a message for Iran. He told them in the next couple of hours, before the deadline, tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 a.m. UK time on Wednesday, he told them to choose wisely. Let's take a quick look at that clip.
Per the president's direction, today will be the largest volume of strikes since day one of this operation. Tomorrow, even more than today. And then Iran has a choice. choose wisely, because this president does not play around. You can ask Soleimani, you can ask Maduro, you can ask Khamenei.
Fred, he told them to choose wisely, but we're hearing, as we heard from Bianca from Newsmax a bit earlier in the show, that there are reports now the Iranians are going to be surrounding their key infrastructure, their power plants, the oil refineries, with civilians. Do you really think they do that?
What a surprise. The same tactic that Hamas uses. It's outrageous. I'm a little worried they won't choose wisely. I'm also not sure who we're dealing with. I think that we hear people in the media saying that the Islamist regime is intact. It is not. It's fractured. The chain of command is broken. I hope we can negotiate a deal, and I hope we're working with our allies to try to get an agreement to get a ceasefire. There's initial reports are that whatever's left of the regime is not interested in a ceasefire. I'm hoping that that's wrong, and we'll be able to get that. But I don't favor attacking power facilities that are surrounded by children.
Yeah, no, but of course Iran fund Hamas and Hezbollah, and that's the kind of thing they do, so no surprise that the Iran and the Islamists would be doing the same thing. They are the same people, right? Fred, just finally, President Trump today saying that MAGA, his entire base, supports him on this. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, I think that's right. But can I get into another issue about NATO and the UK?
Sure.
Just since we have you on here. Americans support NATO. We support our special relationship with the UK. Our relationship hit the rocks right now. And I think really the UK should have been with us because getting rid of this regime is in the UK's interest. But our alliance is going to survive. And I think there's a lot of heated words being said right now. I'm very supportive of it. And I think the American people are too.
So there's no scenario in which you think President Trump would say, I've had enough, because you had the likes of, well, the front page of the iPaper in the UK tomorrow, the UK, after all the drama from the start of the conflict, saying that the US couldn't use our bases to launch attacks and so on, then we let you do it. And then President Trump saying, well, you're far too late sending an aircraft carrier. Front page of the iPaper is apparently now we're not going to allow the Americans to use our bases to bomb bridges. Then you had Spain, who basically they don't bother paying towards NATO anyway, something like 1 or 2% of GDP, kicking the US out of their own bases. I mean, I actually don't blame President Trump for considering the future of NATO the way they've been treated.
We have this long relationship. I think it's going to survive. The Starmer government is terrible. They're going to lose badly when Labor has to go to the polls. I know it's going to be a couple of years. The nature of democracy is that sometimes weak governments are voted in. That's the way the U.S. should look at this. This does not represent where the American people are or where the British people are.
OK, Fred, thank you so much. Always enjoy having you on The Late Show Live. Please come back when the opportunity arises. Fred Fleets, appreciate it. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
We don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Do we agree?
Have you spoken?
We don't want Neville Chamberlain.
I managed to grab a word with the President today on the South Lawn of the White House. He laid into Keir Starmer, our dear Prime Minister, once again saying he's no Neville Chamberlain. Is it the worst insult so far the President has aimed Keir Starmer's way? And, is there any coming back from it? Will Keir Starmer and the President ever bury the hatchet? Because Catherine Forster on GBNews today said that before they fell out, they used to call each other all the time. Apparently, President Trump was calling Starmer at dinner. His kids were around. They just call for a catch-up. Now, though, it seems their relationship really is dead and buried. We'll get stuck into that next.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
We'll be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m, only on GB News.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. Right, President Trump laid into Keir Starmer again today. It was during a quick word I had with the President. Let's take a quick look at that clip.
Have you spoken to Keir Starmer, sir? And also, do you believe the UK could resurrect like Jesus this Easter weekend? Well, that's what they need. Have you spoken to the Prime Minister? The UK has a long way to go.
Mr. President.
We don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Do we agree?
Have you spoken?
We don't want Neville Chamberlain.
We don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Well, with me now is, probably the best person to speak to about this, author of Neville Chamberlain's Legacy, Hitler, Munich and the Path to War, Nicholas Milson. Nicholas, great to see you. Thanks for your company. So President Trump saying Starmer is Neville Chamberlain. Is that really a barb? Was he an appeaser? Because I've seen lots of comments today saying, well, actually, Neville Chamberlain bought us time in the war and allowed Churchill to get his ducks in order.
Well, that's right. And I think, it's only a matter of time before he got compared to Neville Chamberlain. First of all, of course, he wasn't Winston Churchill. He was no Winston Churchill, I think, was the president's comment. And now, of course, he's become Neville Chamberlain. Neville Chamberlain's a much maligned politician who, as you said, bought us really valuable time to rearm in the Second World War. The Spitfires that won the Battle of Britain didn't appear overnight. They appeared because he put money in when he was Chancellor of the Exchequer. And I don't think it's really quite right to equate Iran with appeasing Adolf Hitler. I think the scale of threat that they pose is quite small in comparison, minuscule. And if you wanted a historical analogy, and I praise the president for looking around for one, maybe Lyndon B. Johnson, trying to get Britain into the Vietnam War, and Harold Wilson sort of rejecting him would have been a better one. So maybe a Harold Wilson type comparison would have been better.
OK, you say that Iran doesn't pose the same threat as the Nazis, but I guess the one thing they do have in common, the Iranian Islamist regime, is they both, they want to wipe Jews off the face of the earth, and they want to wipe Israel. Of course, Israel was formed after the war, but they want to wipe Jews off the face of the earth. So, I mean, they share that common denominator.
They do. we all utterly condemn anti-Semitism and the fact that Israel feels threatened, by a lot of the countries that surround it, principally Iran, is something that obviously we need to take into account. But it's not really. I think it's always a matter of time. I think whenever we have get involved in any war or stay on the sidelines like we are at the moment, till you see Neville Chamberlain's name pop up. And I sort of suppose I feel, because I've written a biography of him, he contributed an awful lot to British public life, and he's had a very history has been very unkind to him. And I think that sometimes it's just a very easy comparison to make, and we do go back to the 1930s quite a lot as a country, and I understand the reasons for that. But I think with this particular war, public opinion is my understanding is broadly behind Keir Starmer on this one, and obviously he's got to reflect that in his relationship with the president. But I think harking back to the 1930s is not always helpful.
Okay, Nicholas, educate me if you could. I know, of course, Chamberlain is infamous for apparently dithering with Hitler and appeasing, quote-unquote, him. Was that intentional so Churchill could buy time, or was the fact that Churchill was allowed time to get things together, was that just a kind of a Brucey bonus, if you will, of Chamberlain's dithering? How did it work out? Was it intentional?
Well, I think Neville Chamberlain became Prime Minister in 1937, and I think most historians will say the die was cast in 1937. Hitler had already, sort of massively rearmed and had posed a threat to world peace. So Chamberlain was utterly having to play for time. What a lot of people don't realise about Neville Chamberlain was he was Lord Mayor of Birmingham during the First World War, and he took it upon himself to write to all the widows of the Birmingham battalions who were absolutely decimated during the First World War. He stayed up till sort of 2-3 a.m. in the morning writing these letters, and that had a profound effect on him. He said if he was ever in a position to do so again, he would do everything within his power to prevent us going to war again. And I think it goes without saying that had he not have made those 3 flights to see Hitler, Winston Churchill would have never have been able to convince the British public, just over 20 years after the end of the First World War, to get involved in a Second World War. Every single family lost somebody in the First World War. It had a huge scar on the nation. And Chamberlain, I think, reflected the zeitgeist of the time. The British public were against going to war again with Germany for reasons that everybody understands. But look, I mean, I think the current situation is very volatile at the moment. I think politicians are always looking around for rhetoric. I always whenever these sort of things happen, I always sort of think, well, how long is it going to be before Neville Chamberlain gets mentioned? Usually, always in a derogatory way. So, look, I think, I admire the president.
Okay.
I like the fact that he's got a sense of history, but I think on this one, he's slightly out.
All right, Nicholas, great stuff. Appreciate it. Nicholas Milton, author of Neville Chamberlain's Legacy, Hitler, Munich and the Path to War. Thanks, Nicholas. Let me get the thoughts quickly of Adam Brooks down the line in London. Adam, you heard what Nicholas just said there. If you really want to go by the detail, it's not that much of an insult because Chamberlain apparently was buying time deliberately. However, President Trump meant it as an insult.
Yeah, without doubt. Look, he's called him a loser. He's not held back when it comes to Starmer. And look, in any other time, most of Britain would get the ump with this. Most of Britain would rally back against their Prime Minister being insulted by a foreign power. But Keir Starmer has done so much damage to this country in the last 2 years. He's the most hated Prime Minister of my lifetime, certainly. So, I find myself almost cheering President Trump on when he's demeaning Keir Starmer, because I just want him gone. I know what's coming next.
Well, people call you treacherous for that, Adam.
I don't care what they say. I believe Keir Starmer is treacherous for what he's doing to this country. He's ruined this country within, and we've got possibly another 2-3 years of this. I want to see him gone. And as I said, I know what's coming is probably next, is worse. Angela Rayner, whoever, Ed Miliband, they will be as bad, if not worse. But we just need him gone, because I feel like there would be street parties once Keir Starmer's gone. So I can empathise with Donald Trump. A once great ally has not stood by them, and that's insulting.
Well, I will say, though, according to the polls, and again, polls, take them with a pinch of salt, but I think the polls suggest Keir Starmer has got it right on this, because some polls say that the majority of Brits do not want to get involved in the war, and they back Keir Starmer. And I guess that's why Starmer's doubling down. He's saying it's not our war, we're not getting involved.
It's the way it's framed, Ben. None of us want our troops to go to war with Iran. None of us want to see body bags coming back to this country. What we do want to see is a safer world. And many of us do believe, I still believe many of the people asked would want Iran and their regime taken out. They just don't want us to do it. Look, Iraq was a terrible, terrible war. Tony Blair took us into something that we're still paying the price for. So that is where the worry comes from. But look, we was never going to send troops there. And I hope the next few weeks work out. Look, we're taking a bit of economic pain at the moment.
Okay.
But things will get better.
Yeah, fingers crossed. We need that Strait of Hormuz to open up sooner rather than later. And talking of the UK's involvement, Adam, the front page of the iPaper tomorrow, we'll discuss this after the break. UK will refuse Trump access to British bases for strikes on Iran's bridges. So we're doing it again, rightly or wrongly. Keir Starmer sticking to his guns, excuse the pun. He's saying no to President Trump. We'll discuss that after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is... You're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Let's look at the front page of the iPaper tomorrow. UK is the headline. UK will refuse Trump access to British bases for strikes on Iran's bridges. So again, we are saying to the United States, nope, you can't use our bases. And actually, Adam, I'll get your thoughts on this in a second. First of all, I bumped into Eric Trump at the White House today. I had a very quick 5-second chat with him, and I asked him the same question I asked his dad. I said, you know, tongue-in-cheek, it's Easter, how will the UK be resurrected? And this is what he had to say.
Have you just wondered if you thought, I asked the same question to your dad, if you thought the UK could be resurrected like Jesus?
Needs to be. It needs to be. Free speech needs to be resurrected in the UK.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
Well, he said we need to be resurrected and free speech, Adam Brooks, needs to be resurrected. So as well as the bases and all the Iran situation, the Americans, particularly the Trumps and the administration, still concerned about free speech in the UK.
Yeah, look, every day I wake up, I wonder if there's going to be a knock on the door because of something maybe I've said over the last year or two. We're living in strange times where we have a left-wing government that is so authoritarian they'd rather police the internet than the streets. Crime is spiralling out of control on the streets of Britain. Yet, you know, they're clamping down online. It really is a strange time, and I worry about the future for my kids. But look, with this Iranian move with Keir Starmer, is he forgetting that we've had 20 Iranian-sponsored terrorist plots on our soil? Is he forgetting that Iran is threatening the world, and has done, for about 10, 20 years? And we cannot just expect America to do all this heavy lifting on their own and us to get the benefits after. This is what I'm saying. None of us want British troops to go there and lose their lives. I don't want one British troop in Iranian soil. But we have to play our part. And look, the Americans have been there for us. They are our big brother. And without the Americans, we're a sitting duck. I don't care what you say. If Argentina wanted to take the Falklands, they could take it tomorrow, because our Navy is all stuck in maintenance yards, or it's broken, or we wouldn't be willing to send them. I just worry about our reputation in the world now. And the last sort of 3-4 weeks has undone decades of hard work by prime ministers, by our military. I feel real sorry for the Brits right now.
So, Laurie, I know you don't agree with what's going on in Iran, but Adam has quite rightly said, in the perspective of the UK, we've had terror plots, all sorts going on. What would you do with Iran now? What would you have done?
As it relates to Britain, you're talking about?
You know, just the Iran problem. It's not just an American problem, it's a Britain problem, it's a West problem.
Well, I don't get paid enough money to come on your show to say how I would fix the Iran war.
Yeah, but you say what you wouldn't do. That's the thing. You say what you wouldn't do. So, have you...
Well, I think that we need to be in negotiations with them, real negotiations, and they have not been talking. The Pakistanis are trying to do the best that they can do. Hassan Munir, who is the chief army field marshal there in Pakistan, is speaking directly with Vice President J.D. Vance, but unfortunately he's not able, along with our other allies, to move the needle with Donald Trump. So, yeah, the first point on there was to stop killing senior Iranian officials, which Donald Trump is not going to agree to. And then from there, a ceasefire, all of that, you know, went into the garbage can.
Colin, very quickly, sorry to squeeze you. What would you do if not this?
I would do what the president's doing, which is seeing this through to its natural conclusion. Adam hit a really important point, which is Rome, London, Paris, Madrid. They are all a lot closer to Tehran and those lunatics in Iran than the United States is. So this is a Europe problem. This is a world problem.
OK, we've got some big breaking news. Iran has just delivered its highly anticipated 10-point response to the US, and they are demanding various different things. I'll bring you all that detail after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of sunshine around today and feeling very warm for some in the sunnier spells, a bit cloudier and breezier in the west at times, and a fairly chilly start, and there could be a good breeze around, particularly around coastal areas and around any hills. But for most across the country, it's a fine, settled day and plenty of blue skies by the time we reach the afternoon. Slightly different story in the west. Cloudier here, often breezy, eventually some rain starting to push into Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of Scotland. But for most, lots of warm sunshine around, highs potentially reaching around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius in some parts. Then later on this evening, a bit of a change across Scotland, much more cloud to finish off the day. Some spells of rain across the west. This could turn heavy at times, slowly edging its way eastwards through the course of the night. Similar across Northern Ireland, quite a cloudy end to the day with some rain just pushing into the west. And there could be some bits and bobs of cloud just starting to edge its way into northern parts of England and Wales. But for most, it should be a fairly dry night, plenty of clear periods. So temperatures once again dipping down, but a fairly good breeze through the overnight period, stopping temperatures from dropping too low. Still fairly breezy across the northwest, some remnants of rain, but eventually pushing its way northeastwards into northern parts of Scotland. So for most, a dry night, if not fairly breezy around coastal areas. Temperatures widely in the high single figures. Then as we make our way into Wednesday, once again, it's another dry, settled day, plenty of sunshine around and still feeling very warm in that sunshine, particularly across parts of the south and southeast. Once again, there could be some remaining cloud across western areas, this thick enough to produce some light rain for western Scotland. Some low cloud just starting to edge its way into western parts of Wales and southwest England. Otherwise, plenty of dry, settled, warm weather, highs possibly reaching into 26 degrees Celsius. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen,
GB News breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Every week there are stories that shape the national conversation.
Well, to be discussing that.
And on Saturday Morning Live, we break them down.
Is that true? This is fascinating, isn't it?
The politics, the headlines, the debates everyone's talking about.
And the questions that you want answered.
Do you think that was a legitimate attack for him to make?
What led you to set up this fantastic movement?
You know what? It's a great question, Olivia.
So what are you waiting for?
Your weekend starts here. Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
That's one thing that's a little different than other things. We can bomb the hell out of them. We can knock them out.
A big update on the Iran war from President Trump. He's issued a threat that whilst blasting NATO, calling it a paper tiger, he gave an extension to his deadline for Iran to make a deal, warning the entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night could be tomorrow.
Have you spoken to Keir Starmer, sir? And also, do you believe the UK could resurrect like Jesus this Easter weekend?
That's what they need.
Have you spoken to the Prime Minister?
The UK has a long way to go.
Mr. President.
We don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Do we agree?
Have you spoken?
We don't want Neville Chamberlain.
Well, that was a bit earlier today when I managed to catch a word with the President. He took another shot, of course, at our Prime Minister, saying we don't want another Neville Chamberlain. Elsewhere tonight.
Yeah, from the cabin of integrity here as we surpass the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth.
That was the record-breaking moment from the Artemis 2 spaceship when crew bettered Apollo 13's effort to become the furthest humans to ever travel into space. And by the way, elsewhere, breaking in the last few minutes, Iran has apparently just delivered its 10-point proposal to end the war with the United States. 10 key points here the Iranians are demanding. I'll reveal all those in just a second. I'm Ben Leo. This is The Late Show Live. Remember, no breaks this hour. And as I said, breaking in the last few moments, Iran has now delivered a 10-point proposal to end the war with the United States and Israel, according to Iranian state media. It's being reported right now by the New York Times. This is in response to President Trump's 15-point peace plan he proposed to the Iranians. Iran's 10-point plan, just dropped, hot off the press, includes a guarantee that Iran will not be attacked again, permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire, end to Israeli strikes in Lebanon, the lifting of all US sanctions on Iran, an end to all regional fighting against Iranian allies, and in return Iran would open the Strait of Hormuz, but Iran would impose a Hormuz fee of, get this, $2 million per ship. Number 8 is that Iran would split those fees with Oman. And number 9 is Iran will provide rules for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. And the 10th and final demand is that Iran use the Hormuz fees for reconstruction instead of reparations. Let's get the thoughts now of my panel here in DC. Colin Reid, Laurie Watkins as well. Colin, your take on this. Is this realistic from Iran, these demands?
Probably not, but I think what's clear here, this is a really fast-moving situation that's subject to change at any moment in time. And ultimately, as President Trump's been saying all along, this ends in one of two ways. Iran makes a deal or Iran gets decimated. So the choice is really up to them. $2
million per ship to pass the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, I'm not a shipping expert, but that sounds like quite a whack if you're a massive shipping company.
That's right. That's right. And the president's not going to make a bad deal. He's the one who has the cards here. So the idea that that he's just going to end this thing on Iran's terms is unrealistic.
Yeah. Laurie, your thoughts on this?
Yes, so thank you to Pakistan for... camera on me, thank you. Thank you to Pakistan for brokering this and getting Iranians to actually come to the table and to put forth a 10-point plan, because as of a few days ago, last week, there was nothing like this. So this is an achievement, I think, that we are starting to speak to one another. The other thing I will say is that this probably, the timeline is not realistic in that this will be sorted out before Trump's deadline tomorrow of 8 p.m. But I remain hopeful. But this is where I think it gets very interesting with our allies, that this $2 million toll fee that the Iranians are asking for, what are our allies going to do if they want to start using the strait again? Are they going to come to the table now and say, okay, just open it up and we'll try to negotiate those prices down? Who knows? But it's not just the United States that's interested in opening the strait. It's everybody.
Yeah, indeed, including Great Britain and Keir Starmer, Adam Brooks. $2 million per ship. That kind of goes against what President Trump has been banging on about for weeks, saying we need unrestricted and total free access through the strait.
Iran doesn't own the Strait of Hormuz. They do not own that at all. They've got no right to demand payment for reopening our ships to go through there. You do not negotiate with terrorists. You do never give in to terrorists. Once you pay terrorists once, you will pay them forever. No chance. Keir Starmer, Donald Trump will never pay Iran. Never. He will never capitulate to that. You don't do all the hard work and then give them a gift. No chance. This is the most ridiculous set of demands I've seen in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Laurie thanked Pakistan for bringing them to the table. They've brought them to the table to try and insult the West. There's not one point on there that we should capitulate to. Look, the allies that they're talking about in the region are not countries, they're terrorist groups. You do not agree not to target terrorists. Look, this is about good and bad. This Iranian regime is bad, and you do not negotiate like this with them. No chance. Ridiculous, Ben.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, number one is a guarantee that Iran won't be attacked again, a permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire, end to Israeli strikes in Lebanon. I guess they're going after Hezbollah in Lebanon, the lifting of all US sanctions, and the end to all regional fighting against Iranian allies. As you said, Adam, that will include, well, of course, Hezbollah, Hamas, and of course the Houthis. The Houthis are now involved. They lobbed some missiles towards Israel last week, I believe it was. So I just can't see the administration going ahead with this. Let's get the thoughts now of communication consultant, or a communications consultant who works for Barack Obama's presidential campaigns, Spencer Critchley. Spencer, welcome to The Late Show Live. I'm not sure how much time you've had to get across this, but the 10-point plan from Iran has just dropped. Your thoughts on what we've just been speaking about?
Yeah, well, it's not too surprising that Iran is rejecting the president's latest plan. It's to their advantage to continue going as they are and continuing to fight this war of attrition. This is a catastrophe of Donald Trump's making, and the problem is not any disagreement over how horrible Iran is, I mean the Iranian regime, not the Iranian people. The problem is that Trump is reducing the United States to the level of Iran, making it very hard to draw any kind of moral distinction or even intellectual distinction, because his language has devolved to the point where it's really hard to tell whether it's Trump ranting and swearing and invoking God, or whether it's one of the crazed mullahs or Revolutionary Guard members leading Iran.
Yeah, he actually addressed his language today. I think we've got a clip about it. A reporter, he was a British reporter, maybe, was it Fraser Nelson at The Spectator, who said that some people now, Mr. President, are accusing you of being unhinged after your language at the weekend. Have we got that clip? I'll see if we can play it in a second. So for now, if the United States doesn't agree to this 10-point plan, which I'm quite sure they won't do because it's not free and unfiltered access through the Strait, Trump says that there'll be bombs back to the Stone Age, Spencer.
Yeah, and this is a horrifying war crime of the like of which was unimaginable from the United States until very, very recently. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. Some things are too big to see. You know, our minds have a bias towards normality. And when we see something that is entirely different from anything we ever would have expected, like a president who behaves like Donald Trump does, our minds automatically want to revert to normality as we understand it and act like, well, this is just a guy who's talking tough and maybe he's a little rough around the edges. Maybe this is the way he negotiated business deals in New York, which, by the way, were almost invariably failures during his business career. But Donald Trump is a stupendously corrupt authoritarian in the making, and is an utter fool. He's an utterly unserious, ignorant person who's stumbled into the presidency, and to boot, is obviously emotionally unstable and is decompensating as he's subjected to ever more stress.
Yeah, Spencer, I understand you don't like President Trump, and I say this, it's an interesting conversation because...
Now, wait a minute, where did you get that idea?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just making assumptions. But I have this conversation with many people, the same as Meghan Markle as well. I'm not a massive fan of Meghan Markle. You know, she's done some things I don't agree with. However, when you say he's a fool and he's stupid and he's an ignorant person, OK, fine, you can say that his language roughs people up the wrong way. But let's just take things into isolation. First of all, he became a billionaire businessman from a loan from his father. OK, whether it was 1 million or 100 million, fine. I argue most people would spaff that up the wall and go bankrupt. He turned that into multi-billions.
He did go bankrupt.
Right. Yeah, well, you could say that was strategic. I mean, most businesses...
If I could, he would have made more money by putting the $400 million in the safest investment there is, a U.S. Treasury bond. Instead, he blew it. He blew all $400 million.
Okay, well, he's still now
bankruptcy.
Spencer. Okay, you could say that was strategic. Anyway, he's now a billionaire, right? So he's done that, which is a great achievement for anybody.
It's failure.
Spencer, let me finish. This won't work unless we have a conversation. So he's done that, which by itself would be a great human achievement for anybody. Okay, he's a billionaire. Second of all, he then went on to become a reality TV star. He made a great effort of that. He had great ratings. He was a star on The Apprentice. Fine, another great life achievement. Again, whether you like him or not doesn't matter. And third of all, you said that he stumbled into the presidency. He's won 2 terms. First of all, against the odds, against Hillary Clinton. I think it was the New York Times the night before the election in 2016 saying that Hillary had a 99% chance of winning. He won that election because the majority of America voted for him, at least on the Electoral College. And then he did it again last year. 70 million odd votes. He won the Electoral College, he won the popular vote, and he won the House and the Senate. So you can't A, say he stumbled into the presidency, and B, say he's foolish, stupid and thick, or whatever you said. I know you don't like him, but you can't say he's thick after achieving all those things.
Yeah, so you want to frame this as he's rough around the edges or I don't like his language. That's not it. I think his rough around the edges and his language can sometimes be refreshing. It's one of the things that many people respond to with him, what comes across as authenticity. It is significant on the substance. The most important substance here is he's stupendously corrupt. He's openly taking enormous bribes, which is the way he's made the first real money in his life, through these enormous cryptocurrency bribes, bribes with the things like the gift of this $400 million airplane, investments by Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Vietnam, and others. It's incredible. Nobody's seen anything like this in history, in the United States at least. In terms of his business career, there's nothing strategic about taking a $400 million inheritance and blowing it, which is what he did. There's nothing strategic about driving 6 businesses into bankruptcy. What he managed to do was walk away with some number of millions of dollars in each case because he would pay himself huge salaries and stiff his creditors and stiff his investors to the point where no bank in New York would loan to him except Deutsche Bank. When he became the host of The Apprentice, that was a creation of Mark Burnett and NBC Television. And as one of the producers on that show, Bob Pruitt, revealed last year, he wasn't the first to reveal this, of course, but he had an eyewitness seat in the production of The Apprentice and production of every episode. As everybody in New York knew, Trump, before The Apprentice, was what Pruitt called a sleazy tabloid hustler. Nobody took him seriously, and they knew that he continually failed in business.
Okay.
But The Apprentice presented him as what many people came to believe he must be. And it's utterly fictional. Now, he is a very talented entertainer, so I agree. He was very successful as the host of The Apprentice. It was an enormous hit. You got to hand it to him. And I often say in another life, he would have been a very successful entertainer, and the world would have been a lot better off for it. I also agree he legitimately won those elections. I think he was basically the perfect man for the time, but I think that's more of a commentary on these times than on his qualities as a person.
All right. I have to say, Spencer, because I mean, what you said about him taking bribes and being corrupt is, I argue, is pretty libelous. I've got a mortgage to pay, so I'm going to ask you whether you have any proof whatsoever that he's been taking bribes and he's corrupt. Because the jet, for example, was a gift from Qatar. So what proof have you seen he's been taking bribes?
Well, U.S. presidents are not allowed to take any gifts whatsoever. They're not allowed to take a $10 pen, let alone a $400 million jet. But if you just look up the Trump family cryptocurrency ventures, for example, these Trump meme coins, which enable people who want to bribe him to directly give him untraceable money. That's the whole point. And he has made reportedly at least $1.5 billion, he and his family, just in the short time he's been in office this second time. This is corruption on a scale that has never been seen before.
But you mentioned bribes. Who bribed him and where's the proof?
This has been widely reported. You can find it anywhere. I recommend Google.
Yeah, but where's the proof? If we were in a court of law, Spencer, because by the way, it's important, he's never been convicted of any bribes or corruption. So if we're in a court of law now, I'm the defence attorney. Where's the proof, Spencer?
We're not in a court of law. In the United States, no.
But where's the proof? I'm just asking where the proof is.
Then you have to let me finish too. I recognize I interrupted you before. In the United States, no public official, and certainly no president, is allowed to take any gift or emolument, as it's known, whatsoever. If you're dealing with public officials in the United States, they can't even use their government email account to talk to you unless they're talking about official government business. These are very, very strict rules for a very good reason. We used to have what was known as the spoils system until the late 19th century in the United States, where bribery was common. It was a way of doing business in government. That is absolutely not the case in the United States. And so even the appearance of corruption is absolutely wrong within the American context. You're not allowed to do anything that could be interpreted as a bribe. And it's very difficult to look at these transactions as anything but bribes. Why would anybody buy a worthless Trump meme coin for hundreds of millions of dollars if they weren't intending to influence the president of the United States, who then almost immediately makes bizarre decisions like handing over sensitive technology to the UAE, for example?
Okay, so just to clarify, you have no concrete proof that would get President Trump done in court and impeached?
I don't have video of Trump saying, I promise to give you these sweetheart deals if you give me cash, and let's make sure that we capture this on video.
So you got no proof?
That is not the correct way to frame this. He's not allowed to take any gift whatsoever or engage in any kind of business activity whatsoever that creates a conflict of interest, and he's obviously guilty of all of that.
All right, Spencer, thank you very much. Appreciate you being on the show. Spencer Critchley, you worked in comms for Barack Obama, multiple campaigns. Appreciate it, Spencer Critchley. Colin, your take on that? Were you listening to that?
So this is not an uncommon refrain from many on the left, and there's a reason it's called Trump derangement syndrome, because the complaints against him just sound so unhinged. But in addition to all the points you made about Donald Trump's the thing he's done in his life, the other thing I like to remind my Democratic friends is he beat their candidate not once but twice. So either their candidates are that bad, or they have such a terrible time selling a message to the American voters, or they're going to say the American voters are just they just can't figure out why they should vote for Donald Trump. But if Donald Trump is as bad as they say he is, why did the American public vote for him not once but 2 times?
Oh yeah, Laurie, any ideas why he won 2 elections?
So brilliant job, Spencer. Thank you for communicating that so
How was that? He provided no proof. He just said he was corrupt.
Also, I would add that the people that were pardoned have also, it's been widely reported also, Ben, that millions of dollars have gone into either his presidential library fund or into this crypto. But something that's most troubling for me that I'd like to talk about.
The fake news media reported all sorts of nonsense about Russia hoaxes. They reported that Trump was getting peed on by Russians in Moscow. It was all nonsense. So when you say it's been reported,
about people urinating on I'm a
no, but you're talking about the media reporting with no proof. I would love to talk about the
State Department that transferred $1.25 billion in foreign aid to Trump's Board of Peace, pulling $1 billion from international disaster assistance, $200 million from peacekeeping operations, and $50 million from international organizations. Money that Congress authorized for hurricanes and refugees moved without a congressional vote into a fund that Trump created by executive order and controls personally. When reporters asked the State Department about it, a spokesperson said they had nothing to announce at this time. That's just one example, but we can go on to your other guests now.
Okay, Adam, your take. I guess you were listening to Spencer there.
It's unbelievable how the left can come on TV and make so many unverified claims. And Laurie, for you to congratulate him, you wouldn't be doing the same if someone made up claims about Kamala Harris or someone on the left. You'd be going crazy and saying that you shouldn't be able to do that. That's nonsense. And this is the hypocrisy of the left. They feel like they've got free rein just to accuse Donald Trump of anything, and they can get away with it. Well, look, no disrespect, I hope Donald Trump sees this programme tonight and has a little legal word with your former guest, because sometimes you need to play ball and play hard and shut these people up. You can't just go around making things up and hoping you don't get sued.
Yeah, and also I will just say, you can't just say, oh, it was reported. The news lie all the time, especially when it comes to Trump. They lie and they lie and they lie. They lie about politicians in the UK. I know we're in the news, but I mean, I'd like to think GB News does a far better job of trying to convey convey the facts and the thoughts and the feelings of the majority of the British people than going around lying. The left media here in America are, as President Trump says, they are fake news to the core. Let's get the thoughts of Middle East policy expert Harley Littman. Let's bring him in. Harley Littman, what's your take on this this corruption and bribery shenanigans?
I was listening to it very carefully, and I was dying to jump in and was speaking, but obviously I wasn't on yet. So yeah, I'd like to say a few things in response to what Spencer said. First, a little historical comparison. Ulysses S. Grant, arguably the best general in American history, failed at every single thing he ever did, multiple times. Yet he's considered to be, if not the best, certainly one of the best American generals in American history. He defeated the South and ended slavery. So just because someone has been a failure multiple times, sometimes those people, it's fourth time, fifth time, sixth time, whatever the number is when their moment comes. So I don't really value someone just trashing someone for past failures that they may have had. I like to focus on facts, and let's look at that. So let's take a good look at what has Trump accomplished. One, let's take foreign policy. He got out the hostages from Gaza and ended the fighting in Gaza. I don't think anybody could have done that. Two, he got NATO to agree to spend 5% of their GDP on defense. That will probably prevent a war in Europe. Putin has his eye on other countries in Europe, NATO countries in Europe. He's relentless, and everybody says he's not going to give up. If he sees 32 nations of NATO spending 5% of their GDP on defense, that's the most important thing that NATO can do to discourage Russia from going to war against a NATO nation, preventing World War III. Three, probably most important, he is trying to destroy, not since Nazi Germany, the most demonic regime that we have seen on this planet in the last century and this century. And a nation that has been at war with the West for 47 years, that murders its own people. They have 100,000 people in jail. They rape the women, they rape the men. This is a dictatorship that impoverishes their people and is focused on colonialism and imperialism. Just look at what they've done to Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Iraq. Those countries are impoverished, and the people in Iran are suffering in poverty because the leadership is spending money on conquest. This is what we're up against. So whatever Trump's motives are, the fact that he's degrading Iran and making them dramatically weaker, and hopefully they're on the brink of collapsing, which I think they will be, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but I don't think this regime is sustainable, is a gift to the world. And that's what matters. All these people are obsessed with his flaws, and I say focused on substance, not style. And if you look at substance, Trump has, with all his flaws, done a spectacular job. And the last thing I'll say is he's finally got a strategy against China. Because when you look at the four nations, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China, those four nations are stronger than the United States. And he is now, by taking Venezuela and Iran and potentially depriving China of oil, using it as leverage, it would make it very hard for China to attack Taiwan because they really depend on that cheap oil. So it's a brilliant strategy that every American president has kicked the can down the road about Iran. They pass it on to the next president. And the road gets, and the can gets heavier and the road gets shorter. So Trump is at least doing something now to address this regime that is building ICBMs. By the way, their missiles could reach Israel. So why are they building intercontinental ballistic missiles? Only one reason: to be able to reach the United States and Europe, England. So their intentions are clear, and I think that Trump is addressing this. And it's too early to say, because people say, what's his strategy? He wants to be unpredictable. He said that. He doesn't want to explain his strategy. Doesn't mean he doesn't have one. But the left is obsessed. They can't get over their hatred of Trump. And so they can't see that what he's doing is in the best interest of the world.
Yeah, I do find, Colin, I find, and I don't want to upset anyone now by saying this, but it is Trump derangement syndrome. Forget politics, forget red and blue and everything else. I've never seen, from a human perspective, the psychology is amazing. I have never seen such hatred towards one man. Okay, you can not like his language, you can not like his government policies, you can not like this and that, but I mean, I don't hate in my heart of hearts Keir Starmer. I dislike his leadership. I think he's a terrible leader. You know, I can say a lot about him, but I spoke to some woman the other day in DC. We were just chit-chatting, and she said something about hopefully something bad. I won't say what she said, but hopefully something bad happens to the president where he dies. And I would never say that about my worst enemy, just as a human being, and it baffles me. It makes me laugh because it's so insane, actually.
Especially on matters of foreign policy, where you like to think everybody kind of comes together around the flag. It wasn't that long ago in this city when Osama bin Laden was killed under the watch of Barack Obama, and everybody rushed down to the White House, and it was this joyous moment of celebration, and everyone was happy. Left, right, and center. That's long gone, because whatever Trump does, you know, Trump could walk on water and they'd accuse him of not being able to swim, and that's just where he starts. So it doesn't really matter what he does, because every policy decision he makes is reflexively and automatically opposed by almost 50% of the country. Almost 50% of the country.
Yeah, Laurie, what is that? I argue Trump derangement syndrome is real, and it's some sort of medical episode.
I would say that people on the right, they need to stop calling people on the left Trump derangement syndrome, and they should look at themselves, because it doesn't even make sense that you would call other people and accuse them of having a mental illness. And the fact that today the President of the United States, I'm not even going to repeat it, and I certainly ask that you don't either, use the R word to tell a story that you could tell was BS, that Kim Jong-un told him about President Biden, that he was mentally, and then used the R word. I mean, this guy, he's the one that uses words and expletives. Look at his tweet yesterday on Easter Sunday, dropping F-bombs. It's a point.
Really? Are you really offended by him dropping F-bombs on Easter Sunday?
I'm offended by a lot of the things that he does on behalf of our country, because it doesn't make us look too great, that's for sure.
Adam, what's your take? Again, the human psychology of the hatred towards Trump, Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. I've seen it in real life, and I find it. I think it'll be studied on in years to come by health experts. I think it's utterly bizarre.
I'm in agreement with you. I think there's a lot of people on the left that show signs of mental illness, especially when it comes to Donald Trump. Look, one thing Laurie said earlier about the Board of Peace. Are you insinuating that Trump personally is taking money out of that Board of Peace? You really think that he would be able to take money off of countries and get away with that, honestly? Laurie?
Not answering.
Well, maybe
You're not answering.
Ben, maybe the left should ask why people like Nancy Pelosi are worth hundreds of millions of dollars when they weren't before they went into politics.
We should not have
That's what I would like to ask.
members of Congress that can do insider trading. I would agree with you. We need to ban that. We've tried many times in the House and Senate, and they don't vote for it. So there you go.
Maybe
the other point. And again, Republicans are in control of the House and Senate, and they choose not to take
We talk about
those
hoaxes.
legislative
The left
issues
talks about hoaxes a lot. The biggest hoax that the left ever sold this country is that Joe Biden was fit as a fiddle and ready to be commander-in-chief. That was a lie that was sold for 4 years.
Wow.
And he fell on his face in that debate. The American people realized they'd been had, and they reelected Donald Trump as a result. So for all the people out there complaining about Donald Trump, you have only yourself to blame, because you were the ones out there telling us that Joe Biden was doing cartwheels across Kyiv.
Right, let's move the conversation on a bit.
Well, you know, if I can make a comment.
Holly,
we're going to put a lawsuit against you, Adam. Watch yourself.
Bring it on.
The Obama administration.
Go on, Holly.
What a joke.
The Obama administration fired over 500 drones across the Pakistani-Afghani border in targeted assassinations. The media applauded. Then Obama bombed Libya for 7 months, never got congressional approval. Think of the double standard. The Democrats are now up in arms. Trump didn't get congressional approval to go to war against Iran. But there's hypocrisy here. And I think why a lot of people like Trump
in America, he got his regime change, though, didn't he?
Get support. Why people like Trump is because they say he's real. He's not a hypocrite. What he says about what I think Spencer is alluding to, it's not corruption. Trump says the business of America is business. And if he and his children want to do business, they're doing business. You may not like it, you may not approve of it, but it's not corruption.
Yeah, and also, if you want to dig into that, people's sons and stuff doing business, look at Hunter Biden. What was he up to with Ukraine and China and so on? I mean, let's just, left a bag of coke at the White House, for goodness sake. You want to talk about corrupt and shameless people. Let's play one more clip from today. It was, again, this is a very personal conversation. This is President Trump when he was asked about breaking potential war crimes, the Geneva Convention, by bombing civilian infrastructure. Let's take a look.
They would be willing and it's suffering, they would be willing to suffer that in order to have freedom. The Iranians have, and we've had numerous intercepts. Please keep bombing. Bombs that are dropping near their homes. Please keep bombing. Do it. And these are people that are living where the bombs are exploding. And when we leave and we're not hitting those areas, they're saying, please come back, come back, come back.
Harley, please keep bombing, he thinks the Iranians are saying. They said even when they leave a site that they've bombed, they're begging him to come back and bomb it some more.
That is correct. The problem is he doesn't communicate it as effectively as he needs to. That's the problem. But what he's trying to say is that the people of Iran do not want America to stop attacking the IRGC, the Basij, and other areas of repression that the Iranian government is using to keep down the people. Trump is on the side of the will of the people. Where are the Democrats on that? The will of the people. No, I don't think anybody disputes that 80–90% of the people in Iran hate this regime. They murder homosexuals. They murder women that won't cover themselves. They slaughter their own people, chase them into hospitals, shoot them as they're lying in hospital beds recovering. This is who they are. And I think that instead of getting caught up in hating his style, his mannerisms, his curse words, yeah, that's very undesirable. If he was coachable, he'd be a lot better. But look at his results. All the Democratic presidents, what did they do about Iran? Obama gave money to Iran. What is that about? This is a regime. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Harley. So I thought you finished. There's a slight delay, so it's difficult. Laurie, when you hear President Trump saying the Iranians want this, they want to be bombed, they want the regime taken out, that is the argument a lot from the left generally, is that the Iranians never asked for this. I mean, Trump saying they did ask for it, they wanted regime change, and he even said today, he said the Iranian people need to rise up and overthrow their government. However, he understands, President Trump, that they can't do that right now, because he said if they walk out the door, they're going to get a bullet between the eyes, as he described it.
Yes, many months ago when around 40,000 innocent Iranians who decided to take to the streets because the currency was basically worth nothing, and small business owners, they started coming out in opposition to this government as well. Yes, and then Trump drew a red line, which he didn't cross over, which said, I will help you. Help is on the way. And that never happened. By bombing indiscriminately civilians and these power plants and energy sites, water desalination, that is not at all what the Iranians want our government or our military to do. Not at all. And Lippman, he made a good point by saying his communication style, he doesn't do it as effectively as he should. Yeah, I would double down on that.
So can I ask you, Laurie, when the Iranian people said, please help us, Go on, Holly.
Yeah, it's not true. First off, the United States is targeting military installations. Given that there's been 13,000 airstrikes, there's very, very few Iranian civilians that have been killed. It's remarkable. There's collateral damage in all wars. Yet you look at Iran, they're attacking civilian centers intentionally. This is the difference. They're attacking
180 children died, so let's not forget about them.
Yeah, no, wait a minute. That is tragic, but that was a mistake. There are mistakes. It's not fair to blame the Trump administration for a mistake in warfare. All countries in war make mistakes. England and America made many mistakes in World War II. Look at Dresden. There were many mistakes made in war, but you have to look at the intent. That was a mistake, and that does happen. So I think that when we look at what Iran is doing by attacking the hotel in Dubai, they are deliberately attacking civilian centers in Israel. They know where military headquarters are. They're spending most of their missiles and drones attacking civilian areas. They have precise missiles. So there's the difference here between the United States and Iran, and I think you really should recognize that.
Okay.
I hope that you stand by your words when you say look at intent, because it was very clear today in that press conference that Donald Trump was very intentional in the words that he used about specific sites that he would bomb.
Okay. He said that the Iranian people would be approving of that, by the way, bombing infrastructure.
And that is horse crap. You know that, Ben.
Let's wrap this conversation and move on after your weather. After the break, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, he has just signed an executive order to ban Sharia law from being enforced anywhere in the state of Florida. Is that something we could maybe think about in the UK? Let's get your weather and discuss that next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of sunshine around today and feeling very warm for some in the sunnier spells. A bit cloudier and breezier in the west at times. And a fairly chilly start, and there could be a good breeze around, particularly around coastal areas and around any hills. But for most across the country, it's a fine, settled day and plenty of blue skies by the time we reach the afternoon. Slightly different story in the west. Cloudier here, often breezy. Eventually some rain starting to push into Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of Scotland. But for most, lots of warm sunshine around, highs potentially reaching around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius in some parts. Then later on this evening, a bit of a change across Scotland, much more cloud to finish off the day. Some spells of rain across the west. This could turn heavy at times, slowly edging its way eastwards through the course of the night. Similar across Northern Ireland, quite a cloudy end to the day with some rain just pushing into the west. And there could be some bits and bobs of cloud just starting to edge its way into northern parts of England and Wales. But for most, it should be a fairly dry night, plenty of clear periods. So temperatures once again dipping down, but a fairly good breeze through the overnight period, stopping temperatures from dropping too low. Still fairly breezy across the northwest, some remnants of rain, but eventually pushing its way northeastwards into northern parts of Scotland. So for most, a dry night, if not fairly breezy around coastal areas. Temperatures widely in the high single figures. Then as we make our way into Wednesday, once again, it's another dry, settled day, plenty of sunshine around and still feeling very warm in that sunshine, particularly across parts of the south and southeast. Once again, there could be some remaining cloud across western areas, this thick enough to produce some light rain for western Scotland. Some low cloud just starting to edge its way into western parts of Wales and southwest England. Otherwise, plenty of dry, settled, warm weather, highs possibly reaching into 26 degrees Celsius. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome back. Right, with me now is Middle East analyst Michael Pragan. Michael, great to see you on the Late Show Live. I want to play you a clip, Michael. He's asked President Trump about potential war crimes today. I'll play that clip and get your reaction. Let's play the tape.
Mr. President, how would it not be a war crime to strike Iran's bridges and power plants?
Because they killed 45,000 people in the last month, more than that. I think it could be as much as 60. They kill protesters, they're animals. And we have to stop them, and we can't let them have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. They want a nuclear weapon. They've been trying for a long time. I stopped them with the Obama horrible Iran nuclear deal. I stopped them in a lot of different ways. We got rid of Soleimani, the evil genius. He was an evil genius. We got rid of him. And then we stopped him with the B-2 bombers not so long ago. And if we didn't do it, Israel and the Middle East would have been extinguished by now.
Michael, it's not a war crime. It won't be a war crime because they are animals, the regime he was talking about, and they've been slaughtering civilians. What's your take?
Well, a more accurate description would be they're legitimate targets because they're dual-use infrastructure. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has penetrated 25% of Iran's economy across all sectors. Anything you hit is somehow tied to the regime. But when it comes to bridges that are used to move missiles, that's a legitimate target. When it comes to power plants that are used to build drones, to build missiles, and to basically provide energy to their nuclear program, those are legitimate targets. However, there are ramifications, right? What do the people think about this when there's a blackout? That's how you got to kind of weigh this, right? So as we attack infrastructure, it needs to be clear that it's attacking infrastructure that benefits regime survival the most.
Okay, got it. And Michael, I'm not sure if you've been able to look at this yet, but the New York Times is just breaking in the past couple of moments that Iran has delivered its highly anticipated 10-point plan in response to the US's 15-point peace plan. They include guarantees that Iran won't be attacked again, a permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire, but most pressingly, a $2 million fee per ship to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, and as well, not attacking any of Iran's allies, which we can assume is the likes of the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. What's your take?
It's a non-starter. Iran thinks it's negotiating from a position of power. It's not. It's used to dealing with the Biden administration, where they would bend over backwards and offer concessions. It's used to the Obama-Biden, Biden-Obama administrations, where they did the same thing. Anytime Iran stepped up the pressure, they would offer concessions. These are non-starters. There's no way we're going to guarantee the Islamic Republic in Iran that there won't be future attacks, as they will cheat like they have always done. They'll cheat in broad daylight, and they'll cheat under the cover of darkness when it comes to their nuclear program, providing funding for proxies. So this is, I think this is a bad mistake by the regime, because they're going to present this to the president with this looming deadline of 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow for them to open the Straits of Hormuz without any compromise. So I think this is exactly what the president may have wanted to hear from the regime, because it's easy to reject it.
Okay, and the deadline is fast approaching, 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. That's around 1 a.m. UK time on Wednesday morning. I think I can guess from Iran's 10-point plan that they won't be agreeing any deal with Iran right now, the United States. So will a deal be agreed? And if not, you take President Trump at his word, do you, that they'll be bombing Iran back to the Stone Age?
Well, that messaging is not for journalists, right? It's not for the people that were offended by that message. It's for the regime. The regime was not offended by that message. The regime actually believes it. So when the president talks about back to the Stone Age, we're talking about taking the regime back 47 years, decimating their nuclear program, decimating their conventional military capabilities. I think the focus will be on defenses and force projection in the Strait of Hormuz. That's where the focus will be. And it will be on key infrastructure that denies revenue to a regime that's already worried about the day after. They are worried that the day after, if everything stopped right now, that they would not be able to survive for another 6 months based on how bad the economy is. This is a $400 billion economy that relies on the sale of illicit oil to China. And the strait being closed is hurting China more than it's hurting anybody else. It's hurting Iran more than it's hurting anybody else. We are feeling the pain of that, but China's feeling it worse. Iran is feeling it worse. Okay. So that's what Trump's talking about. He's going to take that capability away. If he is going to do something, if the 8 p.m. deadline is not, agreed to by Tehran, he's going to take away their revenue streams for the next decade by attacking key infrastructure tied to oil distribution and oil production.
Okay, just finally, Michael, President Trump's Truth Social post on Sunday morning, Easter morning, where he said, open up the effing strait, you crazy B words, and he signed it off with peace to Allah or something like that. As an American, as an American citizen, were you offended by that? What was your interpretation of that?
Absolutely not. He just basically said what a president in our past said about the Barbary pirates. He just said it his way. No issue with that at all. If it offends people that want to give aid to the regime, then so be it. But that message to the regime, that praise be to Allah, is a mess. You don't understand what that means to the regime, to hear the president use that and basically say, God is on our side. And they have to be feeling that, because, where is their, protection that they constantly talk about? Have you ever seen that video of the Iranian woman doing a news broadcast saying that God will protect us from your bombs, nothing will happen, and then the studio blows up and she's on camera reacting to that? That's kind of what he's doing. He loves doing that. Back in his first term, there was an image of him overlooking a ballistic missile site, and it just blew up. and you could see his shadow looming over that map. He's messaging the regime, and he doesn't care if journalists are offended by it or other people are offended by it. This is how he operates.
Michael, great stuff. Thank you so much, Middle East analyst Michael Pragan. Appreciate it. Let's, before we go on to our next guest, look at President Trump's response to... Yeah, go on, Michael.
One thing, hey, that debate you just had, I would love to be part of that because that was pretty easy to knock down some of that stuff. That was very entertaining. I'll be watching just for that debate. That was beautiful. That panel you just had.
On the Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in D.C. I see it every day.
Well, Michael, we're in DC as well, so next time come in the studio or come down the line and you can be part of that debate. I mean, there's lots of people I argue with Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, you can like the guy, you can hate his politics, you can hate his kind of behaviour and language, but I mean, I don't know, as people say, Trump says himself, I could cure cancer and people would have something wrong with it. But Michael, we'll catch up soon. Michael Pragan, Middle East analyst.
Thank you.
Let's take a quick look at what President Trump said today about his language on Sunday morning.
Why did you use such vulgar language in that Truth Social post?
Only to make my point. I think you've heard it before.
Well, short and sweet, only to make his point. With me now is Senior Director of Government Relations at FDD Action, Connor Pfeiffer. Connor, good to see you. I'd like to speak to you, Connor, about something else President Trump talked about today, which is the leak of the story itself over the weekend, that there was a massive search and rescue mission for the downed pilots of the F-15. He threatened the journalist who leaked that and indeed the news organisation with prison. Let's take a look at that clip and I'll get your reaction.
As you probably know, we didn't talk about the first one for an hour, and then somebody leaked something, which we'll hopefully find that leaker. We're looking very hard to find that leaker. Well, they didn't know there was somebody missing until this leaker gave the information. So whoever it was, we think we'll be able to find it out because we're going to go to the media company that released it, and we're going to say, national security, give it up or go to jail.
Give it up or go to jail, Connor. Is that okay when it comes to matters of national security?
Well, it's great to be with you. I think the president is justified in his anger that a media outlet would leak the details of an ongoing rescue operation. Obviously, that's highly classified information. I'm sure there will be a full investigation by the White House and the Pentagon to figure out how that information was leaked. And so I think the president there was showing his frustration and anger that a leak that could have derailed an otherwise very successful operation.
OK, and generally, what's your take on this looming deadline? It's tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern time. How do you see this playing out? We've had Iran's 10-point plan just delivered.
I think it's a time for choosing for the Iranian regime, and based on the details you read of the 10-point plan a few minutes ago, I don't think the regime is taking seriously what could be in store for them after 8 p.m. tomorrow. As Secretary Hegseth and General Kane said this morning at the White House, the strikes today will be the largest of the war so far by the United States. Tomorrow will be even larger, and then, of course, if the regime does not come to an agreement by 8 p.m. tomorrow, those strikes will, of course, escalate in line with what the president's laid out. And so the regime doesn't seem to be choosing the path towards avoiding that outcome, but we'll obviously see what happens in about the next 23 hours. But I think it's a mistake on the part of the regime because there's a way to end this. It's to give up their enriched uranium, to agree to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, to stop their support for terrorist proxies, and end the threat that Iran poses to people outside of their borders, not within their borders.
Do you think the $2 million fee per ship to travel through the Strait, which will go to Iran, who then said they'd divvy it up with Oman, do you think that's feasible, or do you think President Trump will just look at that and laugh it out the room?
I don't think the administration will see that as feasible, and nor will, I think, U.S. partners in the Gulf. Or I think likely many European partners who rely on the oil flows that go through the Strait of Hormuz. To have Iran charge a ship fee like a toll booth through international waters would set a terrible precedent that could be used by China and others in other strategic waterways around the world. So I don't think the administration is going to take that demand super seriously.
OK, Connor, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Senior Director of Government Relations at FDD Action, Connor Pfeiffer. Thank you very much. Let's squeeze in one more very quick story. Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, has signed a law effective on July the 1st that seeks to ban Sharia law from being enforced all across the state. The legislation we'll sign today, said the governor, is the strongest action Florida has ever taken to protect its people from this influence, Sharia law. DeSantis said during a bill signing event that obviously, he said, it spans finance, it spans political, it spans culture. The decision to explicitly outlaw the practice in the Sunshine State will have critics, of course, and supporters alike, with some clamouring for similar legislation to be made federal law as well. Colin, is this a good idea from Ron DeSantis?
Well, I look forward to the left rushing to defend Sharia law in their efforts to pillory Ron DeSantis and everything he does, because he's not far behind Donald Trump in terms of how he's seen in the eyes of the American left. And look, Florida is a state that's long been seen as one of common sense. There's a reason jobs are going there. There's a reason people are going there. There's a reason the U-Hauls are all going there. Too early to tell how this one plays out. I'm sure it'll be challenged in court if it's not already. But look, Ron DeSantis is a name that I think you'll be hearing again as his last presidential run didn't go the way he wanted to, but I'm sure he'll have another act, and maybe this is a part of that rehabilitation tour.
Yeah. Laurie, Florida, your home.
Yeah, I really hope and would hope, and I wish that Ron DeSantis would focus on what's the biggest pressing issue there right now is to pass a budget, which they haven't done yet, and they ended session a couple weeks ago. So I think instead of this, he should be focused on passing the budget for the state of Florida.
Do you welcome this, though? He has done it, so do you welcome it to ban Sharia law?
I don't know. I have to look at it. But aren't you guys trying to do that? Aren't you guys also trying to do that in the UK? We've talked about that here before.
Are they trying to do it in the UK?
Yeah.
I don't think, no. We've got Sharia councils, Sharia courts in the UK. Maybe not as bad as some people in America think, but Sharia is definitely a rising problem in the UK. We've got Sharia councils. So, what more do you need to know about banning?
I need to look at the legislation, but I have no idea. But he needs to pass a budget, and I think that's a much more pressing issue than passing stuff like this.
Could you agree then that Sharia isn't welcome in the United States?
I don't know how.
Come on, Laurie. Sharia law, throwing gays off buildings, stoning women.
I protect people's freedom of speech in this country. So if that's part of what it is, I have to look at the legislation. I'm not going to answer.
Laurie,
I don't know what it looks like in Florida.
That's got to be the easiest question to answer. Sharia law. I mean, first of all, as a feminist, it's completely oppressive. They stone would
Here we go. He always opens the question to me with, "You're a feminist."
Yeah, but surely, you are a self-styled. Surely, as a feminist, you would ban without question or thinking Sharia law. We're talking about.
Sure, I haven't seen the legislation in Florida, so I'm not going to comment on it. I actually was a legislative aide in Florida, and I look at everything, and I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know what it looks like. I was given that topic on my way here, so I have no idea.
Colin? Yeah.
I don't have much to add to that. I mean, this is the thing. It's like whatever one party does, the other party immediately opposes, and now that apparently includes Sharia law.
That's what you want me to do and sit here, and I don't know, so I can't do what you want me to do, which is come out against it.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'm just being. Am I being over the top here? Why is that so hard to come out against Sharia law?
I was telling them to put me on. Laurie, how can you not oppose Sharia law? We are Western cultures.
Of course you were.
Sharia laws do not. It does not align with any of our values or our laws. It oppresses women. I've got Muslim friends that do not want to live under Sharia law. So why the left thinks it's racist or some controversial thing to go against this, I don't know. You're just too scared to be labelled, Laurie. You're too scared to go against the leftist agenda.
Scared. I just don't want to deal with you like this back and forth. Like this is what
That's what we're paid for, Laurie, to debate. Maybe you should stick to your convictions, Laurie.
What you do, so.
Maybe you should stick to your convictions and stick up for women, because if we had Sharia law in the UK or America, women like you would not have the freedoms that you do. So maybe have some guts, some balls, and push back and stop worrying about what people say to you.
Yeah,
there you have it, everyone.
Well, yeah. So I've just asked AI for some prominent Sharia law rules. One includes theft, the amputation of the hand under theft. Would you support that, Laurie?
No, of course not.
Okay, so you're against that. False accusations of adultery. You can be flogged 80 times. Would you agree with that?
No, there's many countries that do that, though. So
marriage requires the consent of both parties, although the man is allowed up to 4 wives. Good or bad?
This is just going to be a Laurie go through the list.
Well, you're the one who couldn't commit to say you don't like Sharia law. Okay, I'll leave you alone. I find it mind-blowing. I mean, it's Sharia law. By the way...
Did you know all those things before you started speaking about it?
Well,
no, you just had to look it up. I don't get the liberty of doing that. So
women have to cover their faces, Laurie.
I think they know they throw gays off buildings and stone women as well. I mean, I just remember. Anyway, back in just a tick on the Late Show Live. Here's your weather. More after the break. Do not go anywhere.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of sunshine around today and feeling very warm for some in the sunnier spells. A bit cloudier and breezier in the west at times. And a fairly chilly start, and there could be a good breeze around, particularly around coastal areas and around any hills. But for most across the country, it's a fine, settled day and plenty of blue skies by the time we reach the afternoon. Slightly different story in the west. Cloudier here, often breezy. Eventually some rain starting to push into Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of Scotland. But for most, lots of warm sunshine around, highs potentially reaching around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius in some parts. Then later on this evening, a bit of a change across Scotland, much more cloud to finish off the day. Some spells of rain across the west. This could turn heavy at times, slowly edging its way eastwards through the course of the night. Similar across Northern Ireland, quite a cloudy end to the day with some rain just pushing into the west. And there could be some bits and bobs of cloud just starting to edge its way into northern parts of England and Wales. But for most, it should be a fairly dry night, plenty of clear periods. So temperatures once again dipping down, but a fairly good breeze through the overnight period, stopping temperatures from dropping too low. Still fairly breezy across the northwest, some remnants of rain, but eventually pushing its way northeastwards into northern parts of Scotland. So for most, a dry night, if not fairly breezy around coastal areas. Temperatures widely in the high single figures. Then as we make our way into Wednesday, once again, it's another dry, settled day, plenty of sunshine around and still feeling very warm in that sunshine, particularly across parts of the south and southeast. Once again, there could be some remaining cloud across western areas, this thick enough to produce some light rain for western Scotland. Some low cloud just starting to edge its way into western parts of Wales and southwest England. Otherwise, plenty of dry, settled, warm weather, highs possibly reaching into 26 degrees Celsius. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the cars.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A reminder of that breaking news in the past 30 minutes. Iran has delivered a 10-point proposal to end the war with the United States and Israel. That's according to state media in Iran. This, of course, is in response to President Trump's 15-point peace plan he proposed to the Iranian regime. Iran's 10-point plan, which has just dropped, includes, from 1 to 10, guarantee that Iran will not be attacked again, a permanent end to the war, not just a ceasefire, an end to Israeli strikes in Lebanon, lifting of all US sanctions on Iran, an end to all regional fighting against Iranian allies. In return, number 6, Iran would open the Strait of Hormuz. 7 is that Iran would impose a Hormuz fee of $2 million per ship. Number 8 is that Iran would split those fees with Oman. And number 9 is that Iran will provide rules for safe passage through the strait. And number 10, Iran will use the Hormuz fees for reconstruction instead of reparations. Well, let's get the, by the way, breaking as well in the past 5 minutes. Apparently, and Laurie, I'd love to get your take on this, the Pentagon has cancelled its daily war briefing tomorrow morning. Just a quick word on that. Any idea why they do that? You used to work at the Pentagon, did you?
Yes, so thanks for that question, because I was just looking on my phone during the break, and I saw that General Mark Hertling, retired general, he used to be the commanding general of the European Command when I worked at the Pentagon. He said that he has spoken to people within the Pentagon, and that high-ranking generals like 3 and 4 stars are planning to defy Trump's orders to hit civilian targets in Iran, because they know that that is absolutely unconstitutional, and that they would then be responsible and could be prosecuted legally for it.
So who,
even if they're receiving orders from the commander-in-chief that are unlawful.
So who's that source? Sorry, who was the guy?
Retired General Mark Hertling.
Okay, and he says there's 3 and 4 star generals who are saying they will not go ahead.
That they are working, that they're speaking and conversing, yes.
Wow.
He broke this on another network about less than an hour ago.
Okay, interesting stuff. Well, with me now is former intelligence contractor for the Joint Terrorism Task Force, Barry Oberholzer. Barry, good to see you. Sorry to spring this on you, but the press conference for tomorrow morning at the Pentagon has been cancelled. They've been doing a daily one, Pete Hegseth and General Kane as well. What do you make of that? And indeed, Laurie's comments just then about 3 and 4 star generals reportedly, according to this source, the former general, saying that they won't carry out bombing of Iranian civilian infrastructure.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you violate the Geneva Convention and bomb civilian targets, then everybody's starting being responsible, right? And that becomes a war crime. So I do, if that is true, that the generals are revolting and the press briefing has been cancelled regarding that situation, then it's something concerning to think about. I think the president has made it clear to Iran that anything and everything is on the table by tomorrow evening. I do find it that it would be just a negotiating tactic to deal with that type of regime in order to threaten them with any and all available means in order to end this. The biggest thing would be the Strait of Hormuz that needs to open up, and that's obviously part of the 10-point plan you opened up with, and there's no winning this war without opening up the Strait of Hormuz. So the cancellation of the Pentagon briefing tomorrow, if that's regarding a revolt from 3 and 4 star generals, or if that is whether the tactical plan has changed because of this 10-point plan, we just have to wait and see.
Just out of interest, curiosity, what is the consequence for any military personnel refusing orders from the Commander-in-Chief?
Well, they would be definitely court-martialed if they refuse a direct order from the commander-in-chief. So the retribution down to the generals would be severe, but also this is just a rumor, so we'll have to see whether that pans out. But the consequences would be severe either way, whether they carry out the strike on civilian targets and be complicit to a war crime, or whether they are defying a direct order from their commander-in-chief.
Yeah, stuck between a rock and a hard place. Commit a potential war crime. Trump says it won't be. He says his lawyers says it won't be, or get court-martialed for defying it. Barry, just your thoughts, please, on this 10-point plan that's just dropped from the Iranians, including the key points. The two key points for me are the ceasing of attacking Iranian allies, i.e. the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and also the $2 million fee for passing through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, the $2 million fee is, I mean, this is like a toll. It's not a toll booth. It's the Strait of Hormuz. So there's no way that the U.S. would go for that. Iran has also requested previous payments of these tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz in Chinese currency. So whether this $2 million is in US dollars or a currency like Chinese currency is yet to be determined. But the biggest thing for me is the sanctions, the complete and total lift of sanctions. That's a no-starter, I believe, from the administration point of view. There's just too much leeway that will then be given to the Iranians if all sanctions are lifted. This includes the funding of their proxies and other terrorist regimes in the area, as well as this complete ceasefire in Lebanon with Hezbollah. I think those are just sticking points on the 10-point plan.
All right. Can I get your thoughts, please, on the rescue mission we heard about at the weekend? President Trump went AWOL pretty much all weekend. He was hard at work in the Oval Office, and we understand the Oval Dining Room whilst this operation was undertaken. We had one pilot from the F-15 and then the weapons officer as well. The pilot was recovered pretty quickly after 7 hours in a daylight operation, and then the longer one, the one that no doubt will be made into a movie, was the weapons officer who apparently scaled a 7,000-foot ridge on a mountain, evaded Iranian forces, and then we heard about how, well, from Trump today, that there were 150-odd aircraft, US aircraft, involved in the rescue, some of them playing decoy, searching areas where the weapons officer wasn't, just to try and fool the Iranians. This is what Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, had to say. Let's get this clip and then I'll get your reaction.
In that moment of isolation and danger, his faith and fighting spirit shone through. You see, shot down on a Friday, Good Friday, hidden in a cave, a crevice, all of Saturday, and rescued on Sunday. Flown out of Iran as the sun was rising on Easter Sunday. A pilot reborn, all home and accounted for, a nation rejoicing. God is good.
Forgetting the war, whether you agree with the war, the conflict or not, I mean, that mission by itself, it sounds astonishing. It's something that I will say America should be proud of.
Yeah, the Secretary definitely had a good script going there for a movie. This is a once-in-a-generation rescue, I believe. It is the fact that they had so many aircraft, so many airmen, so many ground forces moving into behind enemy lines to rescue a downed weapons officer of the aircraft, and then him surviving 36 hours. But for me, the best part of this story was the deception that the CIA played with the Iranians. It really put a line in the sand saying that we're not to be played with, and that the deception that they actually believed. Keep in mind that everything is out in Iran, most of the internet communications, so the cyber channels that are open are actually verifiable and things that the Iranian intelligence are actually believing. So us being able to penetrate that, giving them some bona fide on those channels, and then actually to deceive them in order to go look at a location far south of that as a maritime rescue, and then we operate a mountain rescue in order to extract this person with no U.S. forces killed, is an exceptionally good story, but also shows the might of the U.S. forces.
Yeah, and sorry to trivialise this kind of thing, but one of my favourite movies is Black Hawk Down, a couple of other similar ones, and I can't wait for the inevitable movie of this one. This is what President Trump said about the rescue mission a bit earlier today. Let's take a look.
But when a thing like that happens, where a pilot shot down, in most instances, you're really not able to go in, because you'll go in with 200 people and lots of jet fighters and helicopters, and you really don't have a chance.
Just seeing the Easter Bunny as well next to President Trump there talking about the war. I mean, it's just 2026, eh? Any thoughts on Trump?
I mean, the president is the president, right? So he'll make his comments, and he definitely is the commander-in-chief that says what he does. And I do believe that the Iranians are kind of confused of whether he's actually going to pull through with his threats tomorrow. He did action this rescue, and they did execute it perfectly. So I do think that the president acted very, very well with this order in order to go find him with no cost spared and leave no man behind. And as you mentioned, Black Hawk Down and Behind Enemy Lines, I'm sure we'll find a movie out of this in the not too distant future.
Yeah, great stuff. Barry, thank you so much. Appreciate you being with me. We'll catch up soon. Barry Oberhauser, intelligence contractor, former intelligence contractor for Joint Terrorism Task Force. Colin, have you got a favourite war movie?
Oh, great question. Black Hawk Down's a good one. Saving Private Ryan, especially as we get close to D-Day. It's tough to watch at times.
Have you seen Dunkirk?
I have. Yeah, it's a
with
good
Harry
one.
Styles.
Yeah.
Laurie?
Zero Dark 30, my favourite.
Ah, Bin Laden.
Yes.
Bin Laden raid. Yeah,
Yes.
I love that.
SEAL Team 6.
Oh, I might have to go home tonight and watch a movie. Right, let's. Adam Brooks, are you still down the line? Have you got a favourite war movie?
I like Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh, I've not seen that. Is that quite an old one?
I think so. Yes. That's probably the last one I've watched. I don't watch a lot of telly.
Yeah, I'm showing my age now. Right, let's move on to serious matters. Former, Adam, you'll like this, former United States football star and World Cup winner Megan Rapinoe. She's launched a scathing attack on the International Olympic Committee over its decision to stop transgender athletes from competing in women's events, so biological males competing with women. Speaking on the A Touch More podcast alongside her partner, Rapinoe blasted the policy as hateful and horrible. The retired footballer accused Olympic officials of capitulating to political pressure rather than following, as she describes, the evidence. Let's take a look.
A really horrible rule that came out from the International Olympic Committee. They've announced a new policy that they're calling, I can't even believe they're calling it this, because it has nothing to do with protecting women. They're limiting people eligible to compete in the women's category to those who qualify as what they're calling, quote unquote, biological females. We already know that biology, as much as we want it to be just nice and clean and tight and perfectly in one category or another, it's not. We know that. So now what we're doing is subjecting everybody, all women and all people who are identifying as women, to this really invasive testing. They sort of like lost the battle on gay marriage and lost the battle on all these things. So it's just like, we're going to have this whole campaign for all these years to just hate trans people, which is such a small percentage of the population.
I really have a disliking for Megan. I'm sure she's a lovely lady, but her views on, from a so-called athlete, her views on the trans debate in women's sports is insane. Colin, her team, Megan played, so the United States World Cup winning football team, they played Dallas boys under 15s, and they got thrashed 5-2. They then played Wrexham Oldtimers and got beat 13-2. So for her to dance around the reality of biological facts and that there is a physical difference between men, biological men, competing against women, just baffles my mind.
Well, this feels like an argument stuck out in 2020 or 2021 or 2024 even, when it was a huge part of the reason that Kamala Harris fell to Donald Trump when they started litigating this transgender issue. And it's just one where 80% of the country is on one side on common sense and the other 20%, if that, is on the other side. But that 20% is so loud, and we continue to have these debates, and it's one that is just not, it's not one that's going to sell with the majority of the American public. So it's one, as a Republican, that I welcome.
Yeah, I don't know why she's still banging on about it. Adam, you've got young girls who play football, I think, correct me if I'm wrong. How would you feel if they were a bit older, say 16, and some lad came down pretending to be a woman and was playing against them?
I would drag her off the pitch. At the end of the day, I've been calling this trans agenda out since 2017. There's tweets online from me saying how dangerous, unfair, and it's the dignity of the girls and the women in their sports. People are losing places and qualification to events because of these cheats. Any man or boy that competes against women as a trans competitor is a cheat. And for the left to try and excuse this, it's just embarrassing. Look at Leah Thomas. Please, can we bring up a picture of Leah Thomas when she was swimming, or he was swimming against the women? It was the most absurd thing ever. And I can't see how anyone can square that as being okay. Women are losing out to men, and that is a fact. Trans women are men. That's a fact. Biology is biology, and to allow men just to cheat in these events I can't believe anyone thought it was okay, and I can't believe more people weren't shouting about it when I was 8-9 years ago, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, some people still think it's okay. There's a massive movement here in the UK and the United States who think it's fine. They're still fighting for it. Indeed, Laurie, Megan Rapinoe, the former World Cup winning footballer.
So, in a very recent interview by Bob Costas, sportscaster extraordinaire, he's been around for decades, he put this perfectly, and I'm just going to give a couple points that he made because he said it better than anyone that I've seen. His argument was that separating men's and women's sports is about competitive fairness, not discrimination. He also emphasized that trans athletes should still be treated with dignity and respect, even while supporting those rules. And why it's getting attention is because he's saying what is factual, that I agree with everything everyone is here is saying. I know,
wow.
You can't believe that, Adam, right?
I'm shocked. You found your spine.
You should be.
You found your backbone, Laurie. Well done. Sticking up for women for once.
Then he has to be a jerk off. Then you go back to being a jerk off. Okay.
That's not nice, is it?
Go ahead, Adam.
I think he's only poking fun.
What I was going to say before I was interrupted is that it's about competitiveness. It's not about fairness. Like I support trans people, support LGBTQI, but when it comes to sports, there's a difference biologically, physiologically, and there is a competitive advantage, and there's safety issues and concerns that need to be taken into account as well. So yeah. I'll just stick to what he said because I think he did it so precisely. It's just so simply. It's not.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be such a complex
Who said that?
Bob Costas.
And he's a US
yeah, you never heard of Bob Costas? Oh my gosh, Ben,
Have you heard of Richie Keys? Have you heard of Richie Keys and Andy Gray?
Any of the last few decades of Olympics, and you would know who that is,
too. Sorry. I don't watch too much. I watch horse racing, tennis, and Formula 1.
I think if you look him up, you'll be like, I recognize that guy.
Oh, OK, I'll do it in a second. Right, let's move on. Adam, one for back home. The Evening Standard is reporting that the promoter of Wireless Festival has said Kanye West, yay, has a legal right to come into the country and perform following calls for him to be banned from entering the UK and perform in London over anti-Semitism. So Ye, of course, is set to top the bill at Wireless in Finsbury Park in London in July. Keir Starmer's criticised the decision as deeply concerning, while major sponsors have withdrawn their support for the festival over the booking. Hang on a minute. Keir Starmer has said the decision is deeply concerning to ban him. Is that right? I think we just need to clarify that. Should he be banned, Adam?
Well, no, I just want a level playing field. Let's remember Eva Vladingerbroek was banned from the UK because she called out immigration. She wanted re-immigration, and also she criticised certain aspects of Islam. She wasn't allowed in the UK. If you criticise Jews, you seem to be okay in this modern Britain, in the modern world. It's okay to abuse and be rude against Jews, but if you say anything about Muslims, that you're not going to be allowed in the country. It's two-tier Britain again. I don't want to see anyone banned from this country, but we need a level playing field. What he said about Jewish people was disgusting. What he said about praising Hitler and the acts of the Nazis was disgusting. I don't think anyone really should be arrested for their words, even though that does happen in this country. But look, if we're banning women from this country because they have views that this country doesn't like, they've got to ban him, surely, if we're going to have a level playing field here, Ben.
Yeah, just to clarify for viewers and listeners who aren't aware of the controversy, Kanye released a tune called N-Word Hail Hitler. Starmer has said it's deeply concerning that Kanye West has been booked to perform at Wireless despite his previous anti-Semitic marks and celebration of Nazism. He went on to condemn anti-Semitism. Laurie, would this pass in the United States? Would America ban somebody for that kind of thing from entering the country?
I don't think so, but what I've seen with the sponsors pulling out, that is a huge deal. So here in the United States, again, we have freedom of speech. It's protected, but just like you're seeing these big time sponsors pull out, or I wouldn't be surprised if they do allow him to continue to perform and he is on the lineup, that other artists decide to pull out because they don't want to be seen on stage or part of a festival with his name as a headliner. So that's what I anticipate seeing if they do move forward and allow him to come and perform.
And also the market could talk here. If people are really that offended, but he did say a lot of outrageous things and they won't show up and they won't see him. They won't show up for the ticket prices. He has in his life made a lot of really good music
financially.
So this may have a way of working itself out based on market forces.
Yeah, money talks,
Ben,
right? Yeah, go on.
If he'd said all these things about Muslims, would he be allowed to play the Wireless Festival, yes or no? In your opinion?
If Kanye said that about Muslims,
I don't think he would.
I don't know what the answer to that is.
I don't think he would. I think that anti-Semitism isn't treated as serious as other forms of discrimination and hate against religions. I think, you know, people get a pass. If they're nasty to Jewish people, they get a pass. And I think he's being given a pass. As I said earlier, a foreign lady wasn't allowed to come into this country because she said things about our immigration system, and she said things maybe people didn't like about Islam. She wasn't allowed in. She was denied a visa. Yet, because he said this against Jews, he is allowed in. I think the hypocrisy is astounding.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah, he is currently confirmed to still be playing. The promoter has said he's got a legal right to come into the country and perform. Would Colin, just very quickly, under the First Amendment, he's clearly fine saying that stuff here, isn't he?
First Amendment's the First Amendment, and you can protect you from saying outrageous and hateful things. But then again, if he's going to show up and try and do a concert, and there's going to, as Laurie said, get pressure from the sponsors and all the people who have financial interests, that's where people start caving, and that's when you can see the spine start to weaken. But ultimately, you know, I don't know. I have no idea if he's on tour over here or not, or what the market demand is for like him for now. But many years ago, he's made some fairly compelling music, and then he said some really terrible things, and those are the two competing forces right now that are swirling around him.
I would like to clarify that if we had an artist that was not a U.S. citizen coming into this country to perform, especially under this administration, because they've already demonstrated, then my answer would be different than what I just said. You asked me about he's a U.S. citizen playing here. Yes, he's allowed. But as far as somebody else coming into the country and being given a visa, especially by this administration and the State Department, I don't think that would happen. We've already seen people being apprehended at airport gates for speech that's been anti-Semitic, etc. So that's already happening here in the United States.
I've got a great example in true Blue Peter style. Here's one I found earlier. The US State Department last year, Adam, they banned Bob Vylan from entering the United States. They yanked their visa for their chant at Glastonbury of death, death to the IDF. So
I was right.
So yeah, the Americans have done it.
Mess around.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to President Trump today at the White House, the Easter egg hunt, the roll hunt. He was talking, so he got amongst the crowd, amongst the kiddies, the toddlers and 13-year-olds, whatever, loads of kids, and there's a few very funny moments. This is the moment he was talking to the youngsters about Kamala Harris and her IQ. Take a look.
Are you egg people?
Yes.
Everybody's an egg person. I never saw so many egg people. It tells you it's a big industry. How did I do with the voters that do eggs? Awesome. Did you say 100% or 99%? 100%. Did anybody in the egg industry vote for Kamala? A low IQ person. She's a low IQ person. Who's a lower IQ person, Biden or Kamala? That's probably the toughest question. That's a tough question.
So, Adam, he said, does anyone here vote for Kamala? Anyone in the egg industry vote for Kamala? She's a very low IQ person.
I don't agree with talking to kids like that, if I'm honest, mate. I like a lot of what Trump does, but I don't think that's necessary. I wouldn't bring kids into the politics,
Colin?
you know?
Well, this is the second time in a few years that the Easter Bunny has played a major role at one of these White House events. A few years ago, it was used by the Biden White House staff to keep the press away from asking President Biden questions. Here again, the Easter Bunny is playing a major role in some diplomatic events. It's just, it's an interesting split screen.
Yeah. Well said, Laurie.
Absolutely not. Adam and I will agree again. Look at that, Adam. Oh, what a lovely evening we're having together, mate. No, it's absolutely inappropriate. The kids clearly had no idea what he was talking about, and I don't know why parents allow their kids to be around Donald Trump. That's my take on that.
Why? He's a great dad. He's got loads of grandkids.
He's been convicted of sexually assaulting women, so no.
Only in a civil court where the threshold is obviously far lower.
Hear that, audience? Only in a civil court.
Well, when it's a bit different.
Not a big deal.
Well,
right, women? Not a big deal.
Well, no, I'm just saying if there was, just clarifying facts. It was in a civil court where the threshold was much lower than there was no evidence for a criminal case. No, I mean, you agree with that?
Oh my God.
I mean, you agree with that? Well, no, that's an objective fact. Anyway, President Trump, again, as well as talking about low IQ and Kamala Harris, he was slagging off Joe Biden as well to kids and talking about the auto pen. Let's take a look at that.
I could sign autographs. And then tonight you can sell them for $25,000 on eBay.
Sign mine. Sign mine.
I'll sell it. Now, Biden would use the auto pen. He'd have an auto pen following. Joe Biden, he didn't sign. He was incapable of signing. So they'd follow him around with this big machine, you know what it's called? An auto pen. And he'd have the auto pen signed for him. He'd take the paper, hand it to his guys, sign it with an auto pen, give it back. Not too good, right?
So it's quite hard to make out, but he's talking about the auto pen, and the kid says, "What?" And he says, "Look, it's an auto pen. It's a big machine that comes around, Colin, and signs legislation."
The auto pen's a big reason that he's back in the White House, because people were so outraged when they learned about it. So I'm not surprised he enjoys talking about it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Adam. I don't know. I wouldn't bother talking to kids about politics. I hate when people bring their kids along to protests and so on. You know, in London, you get all the stand up to racism, not bringing their kids along and calling people Nazis. It's really grubby.
Yeah, no, I don't like it. Look, in the morning, one of my little girls will probably say, "Oh, Dad, what did you talk about on the telly last night?" And I'll say, "It's none of your business. Don't, you know, you don't need to know that." And then change the subject. Kids shouldn't, you know, especially sort of 12 and under, should not know about politics.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call Trump derangement syndrome. Is that right there that you just witnessed on television?
What?
That was absolutely inappropriate.
No, Trump.
Absolutely. No, not you, Adam. The president. That was absolutely just so hard to watch. So those kids should be having fun. They should be, you saw, they can't even be present with them. He can't not talk about himself or be his narcissistic self, even amongst children. It's pathetic.
I think he knew the cameras were rolling, Ben. So I think he was probably saying it more for the cameras than for the kids, because he's not going to believe that these kids understand what he's saying about an auto pen. You know, I think he's got to move with everything he does. He knows that's going to be picked up.
Yeah, OK. Hang tight, viewers and listeners. Let's get your weather, and after the break we'll get an update on the historic Artemis 2 mission. We've regained contact and they are around the far side of the moon. I promise they're there. There's the moon, but we'll be back in just a tick. Don't go anywhere.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of sunshine around today and feeling very warm for some in the sunnier spells. A bit cloudier and breezier in the west at times, and a fairly chilly start, and there could be a good breeze around, particularly around coastal areas and around any hills. But for most across the country, it's a fine, settled day and plenty of blue skies by the time we reach the afternoon. Slightly different story in the west. Cloudier here, often breezy, eventually some rain starting to push into Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of Scotland. But for most, lots of warm sunshine around, highs potentially reaching around 23 to 24 degrees Celsius in some parts. Then later on this evening, a bit of a change across Scotland, much more cloud to finish off the day. Some spells of rain across the west. This could turn heavy at times, slowly edging its way eastwards through the course of the night. Similar across Northern Ireland, quite a cloudy end to the day with some rain just pushing into the west. And there could be some bits and bobs of cloud just starting to edge its way into northern parts of England and Wales. But for most, it should be a fairly dry night, plenty of clear periods. So temperatures once again dipping down, but a fairly good breeze through the overnight period, stopping temperatures from dropping too low. Still fairly breezy across the northwest, some remnants of rain, but eventually pushing its way northeastwards into northern parts of Scotland. So for most, a dry night, if not fairly breezy around coastal areas. Temperatures widely in the high single figures. Then as we make our way into Wednesday, once again, it's another dry, settled day, plenty of sunshine around and still feeling very warm in that sunshine, particularly across parts of the south and southeast. Once again, there could be some remaining cloud across western areas, this thick enough to produce some light rain for western Scotland, some low cloud just starting to edge its way into western parts of Wales and southwest England. Otherwise, plenty of dry, settled, warm weather, highs possibly reaching into 26 degrees Celsius. That's it from me. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
GB loyalty points are here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB loyalty points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Welcome back. Glad you're all enjoying the show. Some more breaking news in the past few hours. Artemis 2 astronauts have made history and travelled further from Earth than any humans ever in the history of mankind. The Orion spacecraft's 4-person crew has passed the Apollo 13 distance record of 248,000 miles from Earth, set of course in 1970 after their infamous incident on board, the emergency. They were never destined to do that. They had to slingshot around the back of the moon in a daring bid to get back to Earth, and they made it. Anyway, Artemis 2, the astronauts on board the Orion spacecraft have continued on. They've surged on to 252,000 miles, breaking the Apollo 13 record. The astronauts are conducting a lunar flyby that's set to make them the first humans to see some parts of the far side of the moon with the naked eye. I can't wait for the pictures. The spacecraft's closest approach to the moon will be 4,000 miles. Here's the reaction of the crew as they broke the record.
Yeah, from the cabin of integrity here as we surpass the furthest distance humans have ever traveled from planet Earth. We do so in honoring the extraordinary efforts and feats of our predecessors in human space exploration. We will continue our journey even further into space before Mother Earth succeeds in pulling us back to everything that we hold dear. But we, most importantly, choose this moment to challenge this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived.
Great stuff. And in the last few moments, Artemis 2 has regained contact after losing signal. They're back on board. With me now is space engineer, rocket scientist from Italy, Mattia Barbarossa. Mattia, we shared a touching moment when Artemis 2 took off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. What week are we? What's the day today? Last week. And yeah, I just wonder now, they've gone so far, they've made it, it's still a success. Vicky on Your Say, which is our viewer communication tool, has said, Ben, are we going to be able to see any photographs or footage of the far side of the moon? Mattia, I'll pose that to you.
So, Will, actually, we are already seeing some of the footage coming from the live stream, and that you can all already see on the internet, on the NASA official page on YouTube. And what we can see are amazing footages that shows an area that we have never seen before with human eyes, and that, for example, a dark spot that you can already capture from some of the footage that has been shared online, that is the actual Oriental Basin, an area that is hardly seen from Earth because it's almost on the edge of the far side. The astronauts are already traveling, have already surpassed the blackout period when the Earth transit behind the moon and blocking communication, and they are right now being slingshot back toward Earth to return in about 9 days. If everything goes as planned right now, they will perform some new maneuvers along the way to correct the re-entry trajectory, and they will splash down in the ocean about 10 days after the mission has started. For them, from their perspective, the moon looked pretty much like a soccer ball at an arm's length. So it wasn't really that huge, because their flyby was about 7,000 kilometers above the lunar surface, but they got images that will probably come up in the coming days that are going to be amazing to see for sure.
Wow, yeah, I can't wait. Mattia, somebody else, one of our viewers, Darren. Good morning, Darren. He said, Ben, I've been watching the Artemis for the last few hours, and they've even witnessed meteor strikes. Is that true? Have they been witnessing meteor strikes, I'm assuming, what, on the surface of the moon?
Well, on the lunar surface, there appear some bright flashes that are associated usually with meteors striking the surface. We will see how, when the data will come after the mission is ended, whether or not those are actual phenomena that we can observe on the surface and actual meteors striking the surface. Those are not really rare. Earth is protected by its atmosphere, and we can see the bright meteor shower during August, for example. The moon has no atmosphere, so when a meteor comes, it will strike the surface, release a lot of energy that becomes a bright flash of light.
And just tell us, back at Mission Control in, I think it's in Houston, what were the scenes, the celebrations like when the crew of Orion finally broke that Apollo 13 distance record? Can you just describe, I mean, what it means to you as a space enthusiast, as a rocket scientist, and indeed the Mission Control guys back in Houston?
Well, when the capsule was approaching the Apollo 13 record, there was a message shared by Jim Lovell, which was the commander of Apollo 13, and that told the crew that they were hanging around in his old neighborhood, and that was a touching moment as Jim Lovell left us, passed away last year. And another touching moment was just when they were about to reach the blackout zone, because they have decided to propose a couple of names for some of the crater on the far side of the moon, and they proposed Integrity as the name of the spacecraft they are flying in, and they proposed Carol as the name of Reed Wiseman's wife, who passed away in 2020 due to cancer after a long fight. And those were really touching moments, much like the moments that we have seen later on when the crew was about to see the sun, the Earth setting behind the moon, something that very few people can say to have seen in the past. And during those moments, the crew, Wiseman in particular, referred to the Genesis, so to the Bible once again, referring to the mystery of the universe, yet this discovery to be rather about the mysteries of love for Jesus, love for your neighbors, and to a message that was really profound, and that was then once again shared by Christina Koch later on, once they connected back to Earth, and that said that no matter what we're going to do in deep space, what we're going to truly discover is about the human species, is about ourselves, and it's undeniable that our future will belong among the stars. We can truly get resources, energy, everything we need to try to make the human species thrive. But it's also undeniable that the spaceflight is teaching us a lot more about ourselves rather than about the universe, which is beyond any scale of comprehension.
Yeah, well, Mattia, you make it sound so romantic. I told you before, I told you in Florida, so eloquent, so informed. Just finally, last question before I let you go. When will Orion re-enter the Earth's atmosphere? When will those 4 astronauts try and come home? And is it going to be the most dangerous part of the mission, re-entry into Earth?
Definitely. Actually, right now they are standing at about 406,000 kilometers from the surface, and they will need, if Earth is the size of a basketball, they will need to intercept a re-entry corridor, which is not wider than the width of a sheet of paper, just to give you a sense of scale. If they dive too deeply into the atmosphere, the heat shield won't stand the incredible temperatures, and the capsule will disintegrate during re-entry. If they dive too little, they will skip along the atmosphere and they will be lost in space. So they cannot afford to miss that very narrow corridor, and they have to prepare everything down along the re-entry period, which is going to be 5 days long. The coming 5 days, actually, to prepare everything to make sure that corridor is centered. Orion also experienced a problem on the heat shield during the Artemis 1 mission, which led to the delays that currently Artemis 2 has experienced, where the heat shield broke off more than expected. They are expecting right now that their solution should do the job and the heat shield will be fine, but still, re-entering from space, traveling at 35,000 kilometers per hour, it's something that's always a very dangerous phase of the flight, and there are no guarantees whatsoever. Once you are there, you cannot do anything but hope for the best.
And am I right in saying Artemis is scheduled to return to Earth on this Friday, April the 10th? Is that right?
That's correct. We are going to see them splashing down near Baja California and basically San Diego, where there will be waited by military rescue ship just off the coast. So if everything goes as planned this Friday, we should see the guys coming back home.
Lovely. Cannot wait, and I'm wishing them the safest of returns. Mattia, thank you so much again for joining GB News and The Late Show Live. Mattia Barbarossa, Italian space engineer, rocket scientist. Thank you, mate. Right, let's move on back to Iran. I'm pleased to say friend of the show, Kate Jones, joins us now, geopolitical expert. Kate, good evening. Thanks for your company. I've got a few clips to show you after today's shenanigans at the White House. First of all, though, your take on this breaking news that Iran has just dropped its 10-point plan. Some of the key points include a $2 million fee for passing through the Strait of Hormuz, stop attacking Iran's allies, the Houthis, Hezbollah and Hamas, and just your take on what we've heard from the Iranians tonight.
Well, they have a fundamental issue between the United States and Iran, and that centers on timing. So the Iranians would prefer to have all attacks stop and then discuss the finer points of going after this nuclear program. And the U.S. would like to look at the nuclear program and then agree to stop taking the attacks. And then there's the Strait of Hormuz. There's a question over, the law of the sea, that we all would like to accept that free passage is a right. And from the Iranian perspective, they look at their geography and they see the advantage that they have, and they'd like to charge fees. Now, that's not acceptable in any sense of sort of the global environment, but it is from their perspective.
And the Wall Street Journal now apparently is suggesting that no deal will be reached by the time we reach the deadline at 8 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. I know what Trump said. Actually, let's listen to what Trump said. If that deadline's not reached, then I'll get your reaction. Let's play that clip.
But we're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and after that, they're going to have no bridges, they're going to have no power plants. Stone Ages, yeah, Stone Ages.
He says they're going back to the Stone Age if they don't agree a deal. Do you take President Trump at his word? And more crucially, should the Iranians take him at his word?
Well, I think certainly there will be attacks on the IRCG. There will be attacks on certain parts of the power infrastructure, particularly those that serve their military, and some level of blackouts. But I don't see the United States terrorizing the population, even while the president has said that the population would not disagree, because it's a sacrifice that they've, and this is real intelligence, that people believe there's a sacrifice to be made for freedom. I do think that, certainly there's the rhetorical aspect of bombing them back to the Stone Age. No, I don't think that would actually happen. I do believe, though, that they would be disabling the IRCG in particular.
Okay, and just with regards to the downed jet over the weekend, we've not spoken since then. The F-15E Strike Eagle, the pilot was rescued within 7 hours. The daring mission, again, I keep saying, I'm sure a movie will be made about it. The daring mission to find the weapons officer. First of all, Kate, do you know how the jet was shot down in the first place? Because President Trump said that they've pretty much nailed all their, the ballistic missile infrastructure, but anti-aircraft infrastructure, more pertinent to this example. What happened there? Trump says they just got lucky. Do you know any more sort of intricate details?
No, I don't. I would agree, though, that while they've had a huge deterioration of their capability, they're still going to have some missiles left, and they are going to get lucky. So yes, sure, I'm sure that's what happened. And in terms of the daring, it was a firefight. They were being shot at the entire time because they have these sort of the man pads. These are the shoulder rocket launchers that have heat-seeking missiles. They get right into the engine. They're not terribly sophisticated, but they work very, very well. And so, yes, they're under incredible assault. The climb that was made by the airmen, that is epic and certainly movie-worthy. But the other thing is that there's always been a commitment on this administration that every American will be considered cared for, and whether or not it was prisoner release in Russia or Americans that were being held around the world. Again, in the United States military, there's a conviction about bringing your men and women back. So this is consistent with the president to take such a risk to get these airmen back, and certainly movie-worthy.
Yeah, indeed. And just finally, Kate, before I let you go, we've not heard much today, actually, at all about ground invasions, particularly maybe even of Karg Island. I know US Special Forces were on the ground trying to retrieve the weapons officer, but we've not heard much today about any sort of boots on the ground escalation. Have you heard anything on that front? Is that still potentially an option? Because there's something like 50 to 60,000 troops now in the Middle East, which is around, well, you tell me, maybe 10,000 more than normal. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's always a possibility, and that the way that they would go about this, a ground force attack, would be very different than what people conceive. And we've talked about this before. A denial of service of Karg Island doesn't necessarily mean you have a marine landing. It does mean you have marine boats buzzing around and they don't have access to their fuel. It also would be the use of special forces potentially, and these would be special targeted attacks. And so in terms of ground forces, I'm not sure. I think it's not very popular right now amongst the American public, so the president's not highlighting it. It's easier to talk about bombing attacks. And again, I think the Iranian forces, they have not been targeted at scale. And so these are the individual soldiers. That's a later objective, and I think that's where they're going to reach into most deeply.
Okay. Great stuff. Kate, fascinating speaking with you as always, and as ever, much appreciated. Kate Jones, geopolitical expert, friend of the show. Thank you, Kate. Right, panel, I wanted to show you one more clip to finish the night off, which is President Trump talking about the war and saying that God supported the war. It comes off the back of, I spoke to his pastor at CPAC in Dallas last week, and he said that Trump's going to get into heaven because his intentions behind the war were clean and they were pure. So he said he's getting into heaven. But this is Trump today talking about how God supports him. Take a look.
You've said glory be to God in this conflict. Do you believe that God supports the United States' actions in this war?
I do, because
And
God is good. Because God is good, and God wants to see people taken care of. God doesn't like what's happening. I don't like what's happening. Everyone says I don't enjoy this.
Colin, your thoughts?
Well, it's Easter weekend. I'm sure God and religion are on his mind, and one thing I think Donald Trump, going back to the 1980s, his opponents castigate him for being inconsistent, and they claim he waffles on a lot of issues, but preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon is something he's been talking about for 40 years. It's something he feels very strongly about. It's something he feels very passionately about, and his actions to date have backed that up. And let's hope for the good of this country and the world that he's successful in that mission and he can bring this thing to a conclusion fairly soon.
Was it Bush who said for the Iraq War when he invoked God?
He may have. Remember? I don't remember that one.
Laurie, do you know? Should politicians be bringing faith into their conflicts?
Well, this one does every day, all the time. And he really, really offended his Christian base over the weekend by saying, praise be to Allah. That's what I've been reading all day. Ask Tucker Carlson, who went off on him. But I will say, I will leave the judgment to God. So,
do you think he's getting into heaven, President Trump?
That's not for me to answer. That's for God.
Take a punt.
No, because I believe in God. I'm a Methodist Christian woman myself. I know better.
If you were God, would you let him into heaven?
Of course you weren't.
I'm not God, so that's not my decision.
Adam?
I respect everyone's right to believe in what they want. I'm not a religious man, I'm an atheist. I believe if there was a God, no kid would have cancer, and that is the reason why I don't believe in God. I don't think kids would suffer if there was a higher being. So I'll stick out of this one. I'll let Trump say what he wants, but, you know, I can't join in this religious discussion.
George Bush did say, he said, God told me to end the tyranny in Iraq. Colin.
Well, there you go. I mean, look, God's got a lot in his plate right now. I think politicians always risk getting into hot water when they start invoking the Almighty. That said, I think this world indisputably will be better with this Iranian regime not on the face of this earth, and that can be something that I think a lot of people can probably hopefully agree with.
OK, let's get one more very quick story. It's being reported that knife crime hotspots are going to be targeted with specialist training in schools in an attempt to dissuade children from a life of criminality. Backed by a £1.2 million investment, the specialist training will be rolled out in 250 schools. That's not a lot, 1.2 million quid. Part of the package will be mentoring for high-risk students and even deploying chaperones on school routes. Deputy PM David Lammy said, I'm determined this government will be the one that finally turns the tide on knife crime through this kind of sustained, coordinated action that gives the next generation a genuine chance. Adam, all this stuff is nonsense and it's absolute BS. If you want to stamp out knife crime, just do mandatory 5-year sentences for anyone carrying a knife. Stop with all the nonsense and the fanning around.
Myself and Norman Brennan, former police officer, have got a petition out there. If anyone's watching, please sign it for 5-year mandatory sentences for adults, 3 years for juveniles. The only way these kids are going to learn is if they have a deterrent. We can't have all this cuddle counselling nonsense. And Labour, they're basically decriminalising knife crime for youngsters because any sentence now under 12 months will be suspended. And they've given judges the power to suspend sentences up to 3 years now. There is no deterrent. We need aggressive stop and search. We need mandatory sentences. We need really good education in schools. And look, we need good parenting as well. If you know a kid or your kid is carrying a knife, you know, report them. I would never allow my kid to be carrying a knife. Anyone carrying a knife could kill someone, and we really need to deal with this properly and harshly. And this government thinks that counselling and putting an arm around a youth is going to stop them carrying a knife. They're deluded and they're dangerous.
Yeah.
So that actually happened to me, Ben. I was walking my dog in my neighborhood, and at the bus stop, there was a group of kids. This kid pulled out like from a butcher block, you know, in your kitchen, a knife, and was stabbing it into the tree. I was like, whoa! I walked away, called the police. It just happened to be that they came within 2 minutes, got this kid, like put him in cuffs. I don't know what happened to him. Hopefully his parents were called. He was absolutely a minor.
Wow.
But yes, please, if you see something like that, like he could have shanked all of those kids or those people waiting at the bus stop.
It's always easier for these politicians to treat the symptom rather than the cause. Another example closer to home here in the District of Columbia, carjacking a few years ago was out of control in this city, and the mayor was issuing these warnings about drive in the middle lane, roll your windows up, but the real issue was that these people who were committing these crimes felt no penalty. And then when the crime stiffened and when there was actually repercussions for stealing people's cars, all of a sudden the carjacking stopped. So all of these things, it's easier to treat the cause a little further up the food chain than just throw money at it at its last possible moment.
Yeah, I just don't understand as well. We know how you can end these problems. And actually, sorry to go back to Trump, but illegal migration, he just stops it because he closed the border. It's not hard. You just do things. You can stop knife crime by giving people mandatory sentences. Just do it. You can stop the small boats, forget international law by just doing it. You don't have to pontificate and have all these stupid schemes, one in, one out, money to France, should we give them in hotels or should they be detained? No, you just do it. You just stop the boats. Same with knife crime. You just
Who's
stop
always against it, Ben? Sorry, mate. It's
Go on.
always the left that seem to want this counselling approach, this public health approach. No, you've got to scare youths into not committing crimes. You've got to show them the consequences of their actions. You can't just talk these youngsters out of carrying knives. In the UK, if you're caught with a machete on the street, you're more likely going to get a suspended sentence. You could take someone's head off with a machete. Yet if I write something hateful on the internet, I'm more likely to go to prison than that person that carries the machete. It's like a weapon of war.
Indeed.
The judiciary is messed up in this country, Ben.
Adam, thanks for your company tonight. Really appreciate having you on. It's my first show with you on The Late Show Live, so thank you very much. Colin as well, thank you, and Laurie as well. And of course, viewers and listeners, as always, appreciate you very much. Appreciate your loyalty and all your comments on your say. I am having a couple of days off. I think Will Kingston maybe is covering from tomorrow. I'm quite sure he is, actually. And I'll see you when I'm back in a couple of days. For now, enjoy the rest of your week. Fingers crossed that Artemis gets back safe. And indeed, we have some sort of resolution with Iran. For now, sweet dreams, good night, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Lots of sunshine around today and feeling very warm for some in the sunnier spells. A bit cloudier and breezier in the west at times. And a fairly chilly start, and there could be a good breeze around, particularly around coastal areas and around any hills. But for most across the country, it's a fine, settled day and plenty of blue skies by the time we reach the afternoon. Slightly different story in the west. Cloudier here, often breezy. Eventually some rain starting to push into Northern Ireland and northwestern parts of Scotland.